Welcome to FatMan Beyond. I'm Kevin Smith. Hey! Thank you so much. We are here at SModcastle in Leonardo, just down the maybe. I haven't timed it or measured it yet, but I would say it's like 25 fucking steps to Quick Stop Convenience, where we made that movie that nobody ever heard about. Thank you for coming out tonight. Just a piece of info for the folks watching on YouTube or Facebook. Everyone in the audience is masked. And, you know, if everybody's sitting at home is like, what the fuck? Didn't you read the new CDC guidelines and shit? They say if you're vaccinated, you don't have to be masked. I absolutely agree with you. Unfortunately, with the movie, we have a very tight insurance policy, particularly when it comes to COVID. We have a COVID cop on our movie who wields more power than I do. Like, I'm really looking forward to when I'm like, cut, and he's like, not yet, you know, and shit like that. So basically, we had a big meeting with him this week, and boy, oh boy, did he put the fear of God into us, because he was like, look, one person gets COVID, the whole production gets shut down for fucking 10 days. And that's not COVID. That's a COVID, like, you know, test is positive and shit. And we're, you know, our budget's nice, but it's not nice enough to like fuck off for 10 days as if we're Tom Cruise in Mission Impossible, whatever. And unlike Tom Cruise, I'm not the kind of guy that wants to scream at fuckers on set being like, we're saving the industry, you fuck, put on a mask, and then run real fucking fast. So we asked the audience tonight to keep masks on, since Griffin and not, everyone knows he's going to be on the show. Since our guest and I tonight won't be wearing masks, I thank y'all for doing it. I've been trying to make this movie for 7 fucking years. They just announced it this week and stuff that we're making it, but I would hate to be the guy that shut production down, man. That would fucking eat it so hard if I was just like, we finally did it. And they're like, wait a second, you're sick because you did FatMan Beyond. I'm like, fuck. So thank you for staying masked for the show. Just a piece of personal information, kids. It's 7:35. This is trigger warning for anyone who may have an eating disorder. This is for mostly the folks at the YouTube audience or anyone here in the room, because I've posted about this in the past, and some people get really like wigged out about it and stuff. So if you're wigged out about eating issues and stuff, maybe mute or whatever the fuck. That being said, I just finished a 7-day fast. I have not eaten since after we did FatMan Beyond last week. And it was amazing. I feel fantastic. I'm all fucking cleaned out and shit like that. But I had, right before I came here, I had a bowl of tomato soup. And you would have thought like I got to, you know, fuck Bo Derek in the 80s or something like that. It was like the most delicious fucking bowl of soup I've ever had. And when I'm eating or feeding, I've obviously got weight control issues and stuff. So when I eat, I'll just turn it on and eat for like hours straight and fucking feed and graze and stuff like that. So I stop appreciating the taste or joy of food because I'm just forcing it in and stuff. Being that I hadn't had anything for like 7 days, that soup was fucking sumptuous, man. It was so incredible. And it came off the fucking shelf at Whole Foods. It was like no big thing. But oh my God, that's what gave me the energy to come here tonight. And since I haven't had anything for a while, that fucking bowl of soup has me wired, man. So it's going to be a very fucking lively show. And then when the show is over, I'm going to go have a falafel wrap. None of this sounds fucking sexy, right? Like somebody's like, if I didn't eat for 7 days, I'd eat something fucking cool. And I'm like, I'm going to have some hummus and soup. I sound like an 80-year-old fucking man. But it works. It works very good. I was trying to kind of get tight, or tighter, I should say, for playing Silent Bob. I wanted to look like I did in Clerks. In Jane Silent Bob Reboot. And so I do. I now hit the weight that I was weighed when we were making the movie. So we're off to the races and shit. That all being said, we got guests with us, kids. Our guest tonight is a cat who's been acting for a while. If you ever watched Amazon's The Tick, he was Arthur, a perfect Arthur, if you know the comic book. But for us, he gave us the heart and the soul of this show. If you've seen Masters of the Universe Revelation, if you're watching at home and you haven't seen it, gonna be a lot of spoilers, kids. So many spoilers tonight. If you've seen Masters of the Universe Revelation, love it or hate it, and I've heard a few people don't like it. We'll talk about that later. Whether you like it or not, anyone has to agree one of the best performances in the entire show and one of the best characters, hands down, winds up being Orko. And we wouldn't have gotten there without our soulful actor tonight, who's like one of the funniest people I've ever worked with. We only met today for the first time in person. All the work we did on Revelations was over, like, he was in New York, we were in California, so we did it over Zoom. He was in a studio. And then I was on a show he does called the George Lucas Talk Show, and we did that virtual as well. So when I met him at the Secret Stash today, we've been having the Revelation celebration, sold out on Saturday and Sunday, where a bunch of people come and take pictures, they get stuff. When he came down to the Stash, that was the first time I got to like lay hands on the guy, which sounds fucking dirtier than I meant it, but you know what I mean? Like this person has become so fucking important to my body of work, man. And this was the first time I got to see him. It may be the first time a lot of you get to see him tonight. Give it up for perhaps the greatest Orko you'll ever know, at least in my opinion, the great Griffin Newman, ladies and gentlemen.
When you say one of the funniest people you've ever worked with, I'm just trying to come up with a relative scale here. Below Muse, but above Lee? What are we thinking?
Oh, yeah. Oh my God.
I mean, I have Affleck beat easily. I know, because Affleck works too hard. That's
what you're saying. His comedy's too thirsty.
Yes. He is a thirsty comic. He wants it too badly. And does he not have enough at this point? I ask.
I know, it fucking bugs me so much that he's so beautiful, so kind, so fucking rich, so fucking talented, and like he gets everything. Yeah, well, it's like can't you have pick one fucking lane, man? But he has every lane covered.
Some of us out here have not even dated J-Lo once. We are still waiting for our first at bat, and he's circling back around for seconds. Give me such a kind introduction. I hate to come in critical, but I do feel like I need to offer a little bit of constructive criticism.
Fair enough.
He-Man Beyond.
Yes.
I get it. The show's called FatMan Beyond.
Yes.
You replaced Fat, topical, the new show.
Yes.
I get it.
Okay.
I do feel like there's a missed opportunity.
Oh.
This show used to be called FatMan on Batman. And this was an opportunity to call this show
FatMan on He-Man.
No, Newman on He-Man.
What was it?
Newman on He-Man.
Oh, you've got a man as well.
Yeah, I do. Anyway, welcome to He-Man Beyond.
Mark Bernardin will be back next week, ladies and gentlemen, and he never fucking springs on me like that and shit. Let me tell you something about Griffin here. Excuse me, I was drinking this. Griffin, his performance of Orko is one of my favorite for obviously for what he does with it and stuff. But this is what I always loved about it. In the original He-Man and the Masters of the Universe from Filmation, Orko was voiced by Lou Scheimer, one of the producers, Scheimer, and I forget the other.
He was the head of the animation company, Filmation.
So he would record his voice, and then they'd put it through a filter and dial it up so it could be high and stuff like that. So when he recorded it, he just sounded like a guy, and then they pitched it to sound like Orko. So if you went up to him, with your kid, and you were like, "This is Orko," and the kid was like, "Be Orko," he'd be like, "What the fuck are you talking about? Like, come to a lab with me so they can dial my voice up and down and put it through a filter. Then you'll hear Orko." When we were doing this, Griffin didn't, like, if you watch the show, there's no filter on his voice. He can just do that voice. He found it. And I watched him for like so many sessions on a Zoom monitor, sit there and sometimes hold his throat like this and like do this amazing performance that if you met him in real life and you had your kid and you were like, this is Orko, he could literally do Orko for the kid. And that was always my theory. You know, I was like, oh, that would be so sweet. The theory tested out today when we did the Revelation celebration at the Secret Stash. We had a lot of kids come in, more kids than we've ever had in the stash before, because we offered like a free toy to kids like 10 and under, man, and fucking kids love free. So they came up. And so he got to do it. You got to do the Orko voice live for somebody.
The thing that was great was it was one of the first kids in the morning asked.
Is that
Because
right?
you don't want to say, hey, I can do the voice if you want. Because then the parents go like, why are you trying so hard to impress my kid? But there was.
Yeah, they're like, that's a little fucking suspect, Orko.
It was the moment I've been waiting for. And by the way, I have zero chill. What Kevin's not telling you is in the first session when I did the voice myself, and he went, that's impressive. And I went, well, yeah, I spent 2 months working on it because someday I want to be able to tell a kid that I'm the voice of Orko and then do it in person. Like someone who was actually cool would just do it and go like, oh man, I never even thought about that. I thought about it. I thought about it way too much. But
But you lobbied for the gig.
Really hard. But
really
yes,
hard. Like he on
yes.
Twitter, he was
Yes.
not just him tweeting about it, going like, I really want this part, which is very rare for any established actor. And you're an established actor. This is a guy with a career. He's been in stuff. And
Questionable, but go on. Sure.
But there he is, kind of putting his heart on his sleeve.
Yeah.
Going like, I really like. I'm telling you, I'm the right person to play this part. And so eventually, like, it penetrated because there were other people signal boosting you, going like, fucking you, this guy's amazing.
I
You
was
gotta go
working
for it.
multiple angles. I mean, now I'm on the other end of it. You can't fire me. So I can sort of spill some of this.
Yes, let's spill the tea. Tell me
But
what happened.
Eric Carasso, who's one of the great writers on the show.
Eric wrote episode 5. He wrote, you'll see episodes 6 and 10. I co-wrote 6 with him. He's a wonderful writer, came from the world of Supergirl. That's where I met him. He wrote one of my episodes. And now he's doing a huge fucking show that we can't
Say it's very secret, but very large.
Very massive.
He will soon be able to buy all of us.
Yeah.
For sport. Eric and I have a mutual friend named Derek Simon, who's my oldest friend. I met when I was 9 years old. Everyone before that, fucking lightweight. I didn't keep up with them. And Derek's
This
the
guy
oldest
you
friend.
kept, Derek.
Yeah, that's the oldest one I kept. Was at
Somewhere
9.
watching in the audience is somebody at the beginning like, oh, Griffin, I loved him when I was a kid.
I traded
comes
up.
to that moment and they're like,
Yeah.
oh,
The second I
I'm-
met Derek, I cut the fat.
I'm no Derek.
Yeah. Derek Simon's a writer on Supergirl as well. So he and Eric work together.
Derek and Eric?
Derek and Eric.
Fucking, there's a sitcom.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And so he and I have known each other forever, and we bonded over. We went to a day camp together where I'm giving too much backstory here, but we went to a day. I just think people at this venue will appreciate this story. We went to a day camp together that was an arts camp, but they made you go to the pool in the middle of the day. And
So you were doing arts, but they're like, everybody stop. No.
you have to do one normal kid thing a day. Get in the fucking pool. And Derek and I were like, we are never taking our shirts off. So we, for two...
That's how I am now as an adult. I don't even take my shirt off in the fucking shower.
Absolutely. 2 successive summers, we ran the, oh my God, I forgot to pack a bathing suit. You can't make me go in con. And they would go, okay, well, then the one thing you can do is sit on the dirt in this area. We need to be able to look at you visually. There's only this much dirt around the pool. So just sit there. And we would just sit there and talk about X-Men. And that's how we became friends. So a lot of our nerd phases have gone through things together. We got into your movies together. And he knew that I was very, very into He-Man, which was, he picked other things. But He-Man was like my bailiwick for a number of years there. So Eric, when you hire him onto the show, reaches out to Derek and goes, He-Man, I got hired. This is a big thing. And I know, as we have all learned, He-Man fans are very opinionated. So he's like, I gotta know, because I'm a fan, but I'm not a mega fan. I want to know what the expectations are. What would a fan want to see, right? Eric's like a huge DC fan. So he gets hired on Supergirl. He writes a bunch of the animated movies. He knows he has that fan brain in his head. I can write to me, right? But with He-Man, he said, I want to talk to someone who's really hardcore about this. And Derek went, talk to Griff. So I get on the phone with Eric on like a random weekday evening, and we talk for like an hour. And I was like, look, this is what I've always liked about it. It's this, and I like the messiness. It's all these different pieces, all of the. At the end of the conversation, he goes, "What do you think of Orko?" And I go, "Look, Orko's divisive. Half the people love Orko. That was their favorite character growing up. And half the people hated Orko. Half the people liked Orko when they were little and then pretended they hated him because it wasn't cool anymore.
Right.
You know, it goes through things. Some people think he's C-3PO. Some people think he's Jar Jar. He's either essential or he's beyond expendable, right?" And I said, "But I think he's essential. I think he's important. I think you have to." And he went, "Okay, because, you know, I just was thinking wantonly you would be a good Orko." And I went, "Well, don't fucking say it too loudly." But yeah, obviously that's what I'm thinking. I would be a good Orko.
Right.
So then he's in the room with you now, right? And he started whispering, "You know that Newman kid, the bunny ears next to the tick?"
He did a total Iago, whispered in my
Right.
ear. He was like, "Griffin, Newman."
But then Diamitra, who also gets hired onto your writer staff, she
wrote episode 2, Poison Jump.
yes, she was the writer's assistant on the first season of the tick.
Oh, is that right?
So she's also starting to whisper, making it seem like it's an independent thought. No, it's coordinated.
Look at you,
It's
man.
coordinated.
I was catfished.
Yep. And then the two of them tell me, "Hey, Teddy, this is the executive at Netflix. That's the guy who's also going to be able to put his thumb on the scale. We know you're a big fucking dork. You like action figures and shit, right?
Teddy.
This guy,"
Yeah.
well, they're saying that to me, but they're like, "This guy's an even bigger fucking action figure dork than you are."
Teddy is. He has all of his original figures, the entire collections, and they're out of boxes and they're mounted on shelves. And not mounted like they're glued to the shelf.
No.
He just has them standing perfectly.
Yeah.
Although we live in earthquake country out there. And he said that, like, I've gone through 4 earthquakes, and one time only one figure, one Skeletor fell. He's like, but I put him up, everything's fine. But he's got rooms dedicated to this shit. Like he's forgotten more about Masters of the Universe than anyone will ever know.
Truly. And he has like the European only releases. He has everything in perfect condition. And he's this incredibly artistic guy. He started out in stop motion animation before he became an executive.
He did stop motion?
Well, so this is,
I know he did voiceover as well.
this is what I found out.
He did a Loki once in one of the Marvel
Yes.
cartoons.
Yes. So Dia and Eric were like, "You got to appeal to Teddy on the action figure front." So I start following him, and then we start DMing about like, "What are you looking for? You buy this recently? Next time I'm in LA, hey, let's go meet up." And we just nerd out about stuff. And I hear his whole story, which is that he went to school for animation. He was a stop motion guy. People start asking him in other classes, "Hey, can you fill in a voice?" His voices are so good that people start hiring him professionally from that. And he moves up the ranks and becomes this executive. Now is the guy who gets to pick which cartoons end up on Netflix, and thus the only place that matters.
Live action stuff.
Live
He
action
did,
as well.
Sweet Tooth.
Yes,
was
and the Dark Crystal series, which was amazing. He does a lot of stuff at Netflix. All the good geeky stuff at Netflix. But he's got this Instagram that is,
It's
his
amazing. If you
stop
ever
motion background.
If you ever see, you go to it right now.
Yeah.
Particularly if you're at home. Animated.
It's spelled like animated, but you have to know that his name is Ted. And he builds like sets for these
Gorgeous
figures and
fucking dioramas that he. I mean, this is a guy who's like real high up at Netflix and like is always overseeing 10, 20, if not 30 projects. But like still every day takes time to like set up his figures, light that shit.
Yeah. He puts smoke and fog in there,
like real
foliage.
He's put more work in these pictures than I ever put into one of my motion pictures.
It's wild.
Yeah.
It's wild. It's truly wild. So I was talking about all that, and then I just said at the end of it, by the way, I might send in an Orko tape last week. Keep your ears open for that. So I just was trying to make sure. I know at the end of the day,
way to game the system.
I really did. But then this is the problem. I can only reveal this to you now because at the moment you've been like, this guy is so fucking desperate.
Yeah.
Someone get him a date. What is this? It's putting all of this energy into Orko.
More like I would have been like, he's trying to get to us too badly, man. That guy has a fucking gun.
Yeah.
You were the absolute fucking right choice, though. Even like when we heard all the auditions, we heard other people do Orko, and all of them did a good job. He did a great job. And as soon as we got you in front of the mic with the real lines of the show, oh fuck, it was absolute magic. Your scenes with Lena are incredible, and you never met, never even recorded with her.
No, and we were saying that today. I was like, watching, God, our chemistry is good. And it's like, I don't know her at all.
That'd be crazy. You could walk up to her at a place and be like, we've worked together. And she's like, you're out of your mind.
Absolutely. I don't work with people who look like you.
Yeah, you're too little.
Right. Yes. No, but I mean, to go full circle, I work so hard to sort of get on the radar for this, right? And then I finally go to my reps. I go, please, let's stay on this. Let's get an audition. They send me the script pages, and then I go, fuck. Well, now I have to figure out how to do it, right? How do I do this voice? And the conundrum is that Lou Scheimer was mostly doing it through post-production. And the backstory of that is Lou Scheimer was the head of Filmation. Filmation's competitive advantage was that they were really fucking cheap. They were really good at producing animation on the cheap. There are all sorts of techniques they used, reusing things, flipping the image so you could get it in both directions, all this sorts of shit. But the other thing that you know as a man who just did a big fancy schmancy animated show is that the union rules are such that I think you are allowed to have any voice actor do up to 3 voices without paying them extra.
Very true.
And then when you go over 3, the salary increases.
That's why Diedrich Bader did both King Randor and Trapjaw as well.
Right, because you're just double dipping. It doesn't cost you anything extra if you got a guy there who can do more than one voice. Would, but I could. So Scheimer was trying to keep his budgets down, and so they could only afford to hire like 4 or 5 actors, and you can only get 2 or 3 voices out of each of them, and then other characters appear.
Right.
And so his solution was, I will take every additional male role under a pseudonym and not pay myself, and every additional female role will go to my teenage daughter under a pseudonym and not pay her.
That was how they did it?
That's how they did it. And so Orko, which is one of the only characters on the show, this is not true, one of the only main characters on the show that was not part of the toy line first, that was created Filmation first.
In 81, the toy line comes out, Masters of the Universe, and that's technically what we're closest related to, Revelation. We use all their lore, all their backstory, because they wrote bunches and bunches of it and stuff. But it wasn't until 83, that they start He-Man and the Masters of the Universe. That's where Orko's created.
Right. So Scheimer was personally invested in creating Orko and then does the voice for it. But his main goal is, I got to do like 8,000 fucking voices on the show. I got to make sure they sound different, you know? So he's running his voice through 1,000 filters because people can't realize that voice is the same as the other guy who's on screen at the same time. So I'm here in the present day trying to reverse engineer a voice that came out of practical logistics, right? And I can't find any recording of what Lou Scheimer sounded like. I found like one video of him doing an interview. I'm like, it sounds like a guy.
Yeah.
I don't know what his voice was in the room before they run it through that filter. In my audition, I'm in my closet and I'm downloading apps and going like, chipmunk voice, is that what it is? And then trying that. And I got to this thing where I was like, the only way to make it sound right in post is if I'm like talking like this, like, Adam, come on, what are you doing here? And then I ran, Adam, what are you doing? But it feels weird as an actor when you're going like, Adam, I don't got any magic left, you know?
You know, now that I hear it, we should have done that version of Orko on the show. Might have gone over better with some fans.
Yeah, but it's hard to get in the feels because as it's coming out of your mouth, you're like, that sounds wrong, right? And so I sent in 2 takes, one each way, and then didn't know whether you were going to want to run it through all those filters because of continuity and tradition, all that. But from the moment I got the role, there was maybe like 2 or 3 more months before we started recording. And I was like, I'm just going to fucking run this every single night in my bathroom. Like before I go to sleep, I brush my teeth and I do my like Orko scales and see if I can get up there.
I guarantee you no other actor on the show did that. Like you really poured your heart into it.
Well, no other actor had to figure out how to replicate auto-tune with their throat. That was everyone else had a normal voice. But yes, I really did. And it was a lot of it came from the fact that he was this character that was divisive. And you and I talked about this from the very beginning. I know you talked about this with your writers, but you went like, we got to make Orko work. Like that's sort of like, it's a personal challenge where it's like, you don't want to.
The marching orders we had in the room was let's make Orko so cool, people get him tattooed on their body.
Did you see the woman today?
Yes. There was a woman today who came into the secret stash for Revelation Celebration, and she had a pretty fresh Orko tattoo. And I was like, get out of here. And she's like, when I saw the trailer.
I was in.
And then there was a tweet that
I texted you last night.
And you texted me as well. That was somebody going like, well, that's it. I'm getting an Orko tattoo.
Yeah.
And I was like, mission
But
accomplished.
it was like angry. The text was like, oh, you fucking guys, I guess I gotta get an Orko tattoo. It was like very resentful.
Let me tell you, of all the angry tweets, that was the least
That was the
angry.
best one.
Yeah,
That was the best one.
I've seen way angrier tweets than that.
But you know, I think the challenge is that like we didn't want to cater to the people who disliked Orko at the expense of the people who always loved Orko.
Exactly.
You got to make an Orko that's still in line with everything for everyone who's been there on his side, and then you also additionally want to break down the defenses of everyone who was like, why can't this guy just learn how to do a magic trick?
Step one of that is, weakening him. Like when we first meet him, it's like in the first episode, might as well be an episode of the old show.
Yeah.
And it's just the same old Orko. Next time we meet him in episode 3, he's, on the verge of losing everything. His health is connected to magic. So he's very weakened. So once you take him to that stage, then people are like, oh, all right, I used to hate this guy, but he's dying at least, or something like that.
Yeah.
Then once he I'm telling you, you got to be a fucking robot or a computer to not fucking get emotional when you give that little speech where you're like, please just take me on an adventure. Like,
well, even Roboto got worked up. And they're in the room.
Right there in the scene.
Rusting up the gears. No, but I think, I don't remember if I said this early on, but even like with the Tick, which was similarly a thing where I was a huge fan of it for decades. And wow, there's a new Tick. No chance they're gonna hire me. They're gonna want to get fucking Topher Grace or something. But like, I gotta.
Is that your fucking Lex Luthor in acting?
No, I have other more direct. I'm taking a more distant shot rather than the people who I actually see in the waiting rooms.
Who is your acting Lex Luthor?
I mean, the fucking big head on Silicon Valley, who's great.
Really?
He's great, but yeah, I mean, I feel like he's one of them. There's a collection of them.
A bunch of rogues who keep you from getting parts.
Yeah, other jittery little men.
That goes on your tombstone. Here lies a jittery little man.
Finally, may he sit still. But the thing, and this was sort of when I met with Teddy and sort of talked about shit with him, I tried to do the same thing, which was like, I'm not gonna tell you I'm the best actor for the role. I'm gonna just try to let you know what I think about this character, and I try to convey the depth of the thought I put into this guy. But when I was sort of in the running for the Tick, and everyone else who was in consideration had been the star of a TV show before, and I was nobody. I was a person fired from TV shows before, and I met with him, and I just said, like, look, my whole thing is that, and I'm sorry I'm going on a tangent, but I think there's a lot of linkage between Orko and Arthur, and they're both characters I grew up loving.
Agreed.
And the thing I love about Arthur is that there's no bravado, right? There's no machismo to this guy. He is genuinely driven to do the right thing because his moral compass is that strong, despite the fact that he cannot even hide that he is terrified, right? Arthur has no performative mode, right? He doesn't even have an alter ego. He forgot to come up with a fake superhero name, right? So he's Clark Kent, but actually Clark Kent all the time, even when he's on the front lines of the battle.
True.
And I think there's something really brave to the fact that he is that scared, that he's not someone who feels empowered enough to know, like, I think I got this. I used to be weak, but then that spider bite, and now I'm fucking set, right? He's like, I'm going to die. I'm going to die at all times, but I'd rather die trying to do the right thing. And the thing I said to Ben was like, it's the thing I love about as a kid. My favorite goddamn character of all time is Fozzie Bear, because every time it would just be Fozzie backstage to Kermit being like, I really think I'm going to get it this time. I really think this is the act that's going to play. And Kermit goes like, Fozzie, this is a bad idea. I'm warning you, your concept is sweaty. This act is not going to translate. And he goes like, I really think it's going to work. And he goes out there. And of course, Statler and Waldorf immediately go like, this fucking sucks. And there would always be that moment every Fozzie Bear routine where he'd sort of just look at them and go like, please guys, I'm trying really hard here. That he wouldn't even try to like roast the crowd or fight back or whatever. He'd just be like, come on, man, I'd love to get a laugh here. And it's that same thing with Orko for me, where it's like, he's always failing. Every goddamn trick fails. And yet every time he shows up and he's like, a magic trick for the palace? And it's like, Orko, don't do it. And he's like, no, this one's going to work, and that kind of thing, which I
still
think
impresses me that you just fucking dropped the voice.
well,
Like, what is gonna be like for the next person to fuck you? You use that voice.
oh.
What's Orko's O face?
Well, I mean, first of all, he barely has a face, and he's got an O on his chest. So I think he maybe just points and goes, "Oh." But I think yes, I think that's the very smart thing you guys did as writers is that you gave him that moment that it was always this trick's gonna work. Trick fails. Well, I blew it, right? That you have that moment of him pleading. And there were many moments where we were in the recording booth and I would, it wasn't acting. It was just cold reading the script pages because, you're rewriting stuff all the time. I've read the scripts when the new stuff comes in and just reading through it for the first time, I would get genuinely choked up because it's just so sweet and earnest. There's no ulterior motive with this guy.
He's the kid's way in. He was the kid's way in back in '83.
Right.
He's the character that any kid can identify. You aspire to be He-Man,
right?
But you can identify with Orko.
Right. I'm tiny. No one takes me seriously. I get everything wrong.
Yes.
Right.
And I want to go. Can I be involved? Like, I'll be good. I'm as good as you can.
But that's the moment. Adult. You guys writing that moment when he goes like, please. Why am I not doing the voice? Let me go on one more adventure, please. Where it's like, I feel like that's gonna break down the heart of anyone who is cynical about Orko before, because it's like, oh God, he really cares. I can't just go like, this guy's annoying anymore. I understand the personal stakes for him and how much he's hated not seeing these people for years. He
missed them.
He really did.
You know what it proves? Proves that fucking even Jar Jar can be redeemed.
I want to say this. I have a podcast I do called Blank Check, and that podcast came out of my friends.
Has anyone heard Blank Check before?
Thank you.
For those at home who haven't explained the premise for it, it's wonderful.
Well, so the premise now, as it stands, is we pick a director who we think at some point got David Sims, esteemed film critic for The Atlantic, and New Jersey's own Ben Hosley, aka producer Ben, aka 18 More Nicknames, who is actually here in attendance tonight, not to blow up his spot. But we pick a director who we think at some point got blank check status.
And explain blank check status.
Well, like you post Clerks where people go, Kevin Smith, that's the thing. I get what it is. Here, take a bunch of money, go to a mall, make a movie, right? And your career goes through these peaks and valleys. Every director wants to get to that point where people go, I get what your thing is. You've proven it. You found your audience. Now go out and do it again.
Right.
And people take swings and they either, they go up, they go down, all this sort of stuff. My friend David and I were always just fascinated. We became friends through going to a movie trivia night together. And we would just sit there and go like, what was that guy's career? And we pull up IMDb and go like, right, he made that and then that? Like the order of it fascinated us.
Fall down the rabbit hole.
Right. So it's like, that's a reaction to this, But the first year of the show.
And so when you do a director.
One movie at a time, one episode at a time, the whole filmography.
Is that right?
Yeah. So we're starting John Carpenter in 2 weeks, and that will take us through the end of the year. We're spending many months with Carpenter because that's a big fat
How many
filmography.
movies is it?
20.
Do you also do Elvis TV movie?
We will do that on Patreon. That's what we call bonus content, my friends.
Look at that.
Yeah.
Oh my, is that right?
Absolutely.
Oh, you guys got it.
Absolutely. Because we go.
No wonder you were so insidious about getting into the show, man. You know how you got this thing wired.
Yeah, right.
That's genius. That's smart. So you go. What other directors do you do the bonus? Were there other directors that did TV that you were like, we ain't doing this on the main show? We'll
sure.
do it elsewhere.
The bonus we do. We'll do franchises rather than directors. So a franchise that maybe had a lot of people work on it didn't have one formal sort of auteur behind it.
Right.
And we'll do those episodes. And then one of the 3 episodes on Patreon a month is some sort of bonus grab bag thing. So if there's something like that in the career, they did a TV thing. There's a thing they maybe wrote or didn't direct or whatever. It feels connected. Maybe there's a sequel or a remake to one of their movies, like anything that's not part of the proper theatrical canon. And then sometimes we just do stupid shit. We've done 2 episodes where we literally just watch studio logos and go like, yeah, I think 75 was the best year for Warner Brothers. And people like it. I mean, we just keep on going like, look, we'll have these conversations either way, if you want us to record them, you can listen to them.
Right.
We used to think these were the conversations that made other people walk away from us.
Right.
But, you find the one person in each town who's like, I wanted to have that conversation with somebody. All this a long-winded way to say that the first year of our show, what it came out of was we had this very stupid idea that was, everyone talks about how much they hate the Phantom Menace, a thing that now people forget and think that people only started being mad about Star Wars 5 years ago. Weird the way that we are bound to repeat the mistakes of history when we forget them. But Phantom Menace, the whole thing was everyone saying, as you said, as everyone said, just like, well, this is the thing the original movies got right and Phantom Menace gets wrong, right? And we had this sort of thought experiment of like, what if you pretended Phantom Menace was what Phantom Menace is pretending to be, the first movie in a franchise? You were watching it without any of that fucking baggage and you're just taking it on its own merits. And we had this dumb bit of, what if we did a podcast where every single week, the only movie we watched and talked about was the Phantom Menace, and we treated it like it was Jupiter Ascending. Like it was the first movie in a franchise that just, too bad no one showed up, didn't work out. Who knows what he would have done, right? And all the foreshadowing, you're looking at its own. And producer Ben went, he went, how long is the show going to run for? And we went like years. What are you talking about? We'll never run out of material. I go, I'll give you 10 weeks. So we did the show, and then at the end of 10 weeks, there was a huge twist. We found out that, in fact, somehow, under our very noses, George Lucas had made a second Phantom Menace movie.
What?
I know, it's called Attack of the Clones. This thing fucking came out in theaters. I never heard of it. No bits. But we did that for like a year, and then we ran out of Star Wars movies. We went, what is this fucking thing? We realized over the course of doing it, we were more interested in George Lucas, trying to figure out what George Lucas was chasing, not chasing Amy, but like, what was driving this guy at any given moment?
Yeah.
And then that
How do you go from THX 1138 to American Graffiti to Star Wars?
Right. And because we did have order, of course, we later corrected and did THX American Graffiti on Patreon. So we spent a lot of time on Phantom Menace is the point. And Jar Jar for me, the humongous missed opportunity with Jar Jar Binks for me is that George Lucas clearly loved Jar Jar, right? I think he really, really thought the public was going to fucking adore this thing, right? And there are all those interviews you see behind the scenes where he's like, the key to this whole movie is Jar Jar. If we figure out Jar Jar, the movie works. And it's like, well, that's maybe the problem. You're betting on the wrong horse. But it was all about Jar Jar for him. And then it comes out, everyone shits on Jar Jar, and he's like, never mind, Jar Jar has nothing to do with anything. Right? Second movie, he's in it for one scene. He goes like, meets a vote, yay, and everyone, Third movie, he sheds a tear silent. He didn't get a line. He doesn't get residuals for that movie, right? It's a featured extra. And for me, I was just like, the greatest missed opportunity is that he didn't give Jar Jar a meaningful death, right? It's a prequel. We understand that things are going to go bad. We know the status quo that we have to get to by the end of Revenge of the Sith, or at least leading up to. Let Jar Jar die a hero. Let him have a noble sacrifice and make everyone who disliked Jar Jar feel like an asshole. And I dislike Jar Jar, and I wanted him to rub that in my fucking face.
You're like, I'll pay you to fucking make me rethink all this shit.
Right. It's the guy in your friend group who you hate, and he does you a big solid, and you're like, I guess Greg is cool.
And somewhere Greg's watching going, that's how he feels about me?
Right, yeah. No offense, Greg. But like, even if it's not death, it's like Jar Jar had to mean something. And instead they make Jar Jar the villain. He's the guy who cowardly votes in favor of the Palpatine thing. And it felt like an easy way out, And it's the Orko thing of just like, make what he does mean something. And just fucking test the cynicism of the people who think that they're too cool for Orko, And I see people like, you've alluded to it several times tonight, but the people who are addicted to being angry online, that there was this whole thing about like, oh, Kevin killed Orko because he hates Orko and he wants to punish the Orko fans. And it's like, no, the idea was to make Orko mean something. And also, we all know, especially in sci-fi and fantasy, if a character is dead, they are dead forever, and there is no way they can ever come back. So we should all honestly take this very seriously as the final time we will ever see Orko.
That's the one that I can kind of get when people are like, oh, I wanted like more He-Man in this show and whatnot. I want to say like, oh, just fucking wait.
Right.
Like episode, I'm not. Should I? Fucking why not?
You can just say episode 6 goes hard.
Episode 6. At the end of episode 6, we do something that they've never done in the franchise before.
You're gonna get more He-Man than you think you wanted.
And like episode 7 contains no bullshit. And I know I'm going to say this, and then a very, very vocal contingency of the internet is going to say I'm lying or something
Apologize.
like that.
Atone.
That I'm baiting and switching or something like that. But I promise you, on my child's life, in episode 7, there is a Skeletor and spoilers, He-Man fight that tops anything. That's one of the most brutal fucking fights I've seen. The only brutal fight in animation I've seen more brutal was in Invincible when he fucking held his kid through the trains and shit, which, to be fair, was good parenting. But but very brutal, very bloody and stuff. We don't, ours is not, doesn't take it to that place, but between these two characters, it's so fucked up. Pat and Adam, our directors, we wrote like they fight, and it's not Skeletor, it's Skelegod, because as we know, he gets the power and shit. And we have this, we do this thing, and so we wrote about like they fight. Pat and Adam did this brilliant fucking sequence that goes on for 7 minutes where they just beat the shit out of each other in like insanely entertaining ways, using magic, using fucking bare fists and shit. At one point,
they grab fists off of bears and use them to.
At one point, he, there's original drawing of He-Man, the original first drawing of him. He's got like an axe and a fucking shield, and he looks very Conan-like. The character was very much derived from Conan. I'm sure you've seen the Toys That Made Us Masters of the Universe episode, but they were going to make Conan toys, and then they saw Conan, and they're like, there's fucking boobies in this. And so they decided to make something a little more kid-friendly, and that's what Masters of the Universe became and stuff. So there's the image that they first drew of the character, like we get to incorporate. We try, like that's why like when people are like, you're not a He-Man fan, I'm like, yeah, right.
The cuts are so goddamn deep in this show that it's like, I would say this as non-antagonistically as possible.
Yeah.
People can dislike the show. That is obviously a legal opinion.
Oh my God. As the guy who made fucking yoga hosers, I'm used to that.
People are allowed to dislike
I have no problem with people being like, you suck and this fucking sucks. That's fine.
But like the thing, it goes deep, it goes hard. This was the other thing I was going to say. Like, The Tick was a show that got canceled prematurely, right?
Did it?
Unfortunately, yeah. If you ask me, seasons? I didn't get to buy a beach house, so yeah, that's premature. I'm just kidding. I hate the beach. We did 2 seasons, and I bring this up because in this streaming era, I think we're all used to people going, God, we had the whole thing planned as a 5-season arc. And then they drop it after 2 seasons, and you're left with blue balls, and it's unresolved, right? And that was certainly a thing where Ben Edlund came in, and season 3 is this, we're going to introduce this, and like people were saying, why aren't you taking Chairface Chippendale and all these characters from the comics and bringing them in? Well, we're working up to that, and then we never got to work up to that. And people are frustrated, and I get it. You had an aborted plan, and then you feel like, well, I wasted all this time getting into something. Not that it's wasting time. The first 2 seasons of The Tick are very excellent. You should watch them, please. But there's that kind of thing. And a thing that I have been trying to communicate as much as possible anytime I have a microphone in front of my stupid face is that 10 episodes were written all at once. Netflix has chosen to release them in 2 batches. This isn't a thing where it's like, well, we hope we get a second season.
Show. I thought we were talking about the
No.
Revelation, 10 episodes.
Right.
And the back 5 are done.
Right.
Bear just finished the score for episode 10 with his live orchestra and stuff, and it sounds fucking astounding. Now that his score is done, we're finished. But Pat and Adam have sent in every fucking shot. It's locked. So it's finished. I know some people online are like, you ain't coming back. This shit's getting canceled.
Done.
And I'm
it's like in the can.
Yeah,
right.
It can't not come out.
Right. And not only that, it was 10 episodes all written at the same
story.
time.
Yeah.
Right. And it's like a story that certainly leaves the door open for more adventures, but I think tells a complete, satisfying story. In relationship to itself.
In a perfect world, they would have released all 10. I ain't bitching. I'm happy they released them the way they did, especially because 5 is such a great cliffhanger. But in a perfect world, they were released all 10. And I'm not saying that would have assuaged everybody. There would definitely be some people that are still
first
like,
5 episodes,
you fucking suck.
You're kind of clicking up the roller coaster.
But
the last 5
if we had done all 5, then the thing that everyone's crying about the most, or we're like, where the fuck is, like, this has been the only thing that's frustrating to me. Again, I don't mind if people are like, you fucking suck and it sucks. Like, I'm used to that. But in some ways, it just feels like some of these people have never seen a TV program or a movie
Yes.
ever.
Well, this is the
Because
thing.
the idea of like of Orko.
Yeah.
Like I'm not trying to telegraph anything,
Yeah.
but just bear with me, kids. If you watch that episode 4 with Orko, and we see what Orko does and stuff, it is very close to another magic figure in fiction who also gives his life in a very important moment in the story.
Orko literally says the same line, go back to your shadows.
Does anybody know what character that is? Absolutely.
Interesting. And he stayed dead forever,
yes,
right?
because once Gandalf died, that shit was
That
over.
was done.
So anybody like watching, like, I can't, like, there's a guy who's just like, you're a fucking like terrible storyteller because you killed off Orko forever. And I'm like, forever, bro? Have you ever seen one of these fucking things?
Yeah, what are you
like,
talking about?
Oh my God. I was like, and even within the first 5 episodes, someone dies, 2 people fucking die.
Yeah.
They come back, even the tree guy fucking comes back. Like, so at that point, you're like, are you fucking serious? Or are you just denying reality? Like,
I saw
do
a
you
guy,
think here, even better,
Yes.
do you think Mattel, I'd walk in, I was like, you know what I want to do? Kill Orko.
Yeah. Done. Money.
Yeah. Do you know what they would do? There's the door, Silent Bill. You know, like, and again, people are like, oh man, this is a fucking Tila show and stuff. Like, yes, as I said from the beginning, Tila plays a very prominent part in it and stuff. And if you follow closely and read between the lines, you see where we're going with it. We're continuing the classic story that they began years ago.
Episode 6
Yes.
of the fucking show is Tila's quest. If I can drop some fucking receipts
Episode
here.
6 of
Original
He-Man and the
Filmation.
Masters of the
Correct.
Universe. Yeah.
It's called Tila's Quest.
What happens in that episode? Written by Paul Dini. What
that,
happens
that
in that
episode? 6 out of fucking 200. I mean, they made so many episodes of that show within 2 years, right?
Yes.
6 front loaded. The very beginning of the thing is about Tila's backstory and her destiny, which is she is adopted. Man-at-Arms is not her biological father.
You know.
I'm talking about a thing that happens
I know, but
in
if we're
that
fucking sequelizing, shut the fuck up.
I'm just saying.
But in any event,
No,
what
but
he's saying
I'm
and
saying
what
this-
he's oversaying and getting us in fucking
I'm
trouble
saying to your
is.
defense is you're not pulling this out of your ass. That's been there for
Yes,
40
his
years.
point is that like we didn't fucking create anything new. One
Yeah.
of the things that we did
From
was
the
like,
very beginning.
let's find the most interesting storyline, and this storyline was interesting.
It was there the
tied
whole
into the
time.
storyline we wanted to
it's
do,
been
which is
on the
hold the
table.
fuck on, Orko. Fuck. It's annoying as your fucking character. What we were trying to do, of course, was the key to telling an extended He-Man story. If we were telling He-Man episodics like they did with He-Man and the Masters of the Universe, you know, everything just resets at the end of the episode. Obviously, we're telling one long episode that's chopped into story, chopped into chapters. The key to the story is basically it's keep away. You have to keep away with the sword. Like whoever gets the fucking sword becomes the master of the universe. So in order to make an interesting story, the first thing you do is take the most powerful man in the universe and try to fucking keep the sword away from him. How we do it in episode 1 is he gives his fucking life. He sacrifices his life. Now, you know, I've been accused of lying for saying that that I'm like, He-Man does no stepping aside. If He-Man giving his life for the entire universe is stepping aside, then Tony Stark stepped aside. Jesus Christ stepped aside. Like, it's a messianic moment. And if you follow, like, you know, classic literature, the hero's arc, like, bless you, it's where the hero has to go. Eventually, you have to sacrifice your life for some greater cause than yourself. No greater fucking sacrifice than that. So with us, we were like, okay, like, we don't have the benefit of just resetting every episode. We're telling one long episode and whatnot. And let's try to tell a story about what happens when people who, you know, thought they knew things find out they were fucking lied to while we're playing keep away with the sword.
Yeah.
So the first 5 that everybody could see, like, to me, maybe because I know the back 5 and I'm in the back 5, like the first 5 I haven't dealt with in months. They've been done and sitting there. We're still dealing with back 5 right now and stuff. But the point of the first 5, of course, is to set up the next 5. It's an arcing story that goes like this. And there's like when folks are going like, oh man, like you fucking, what's the word? They emasculated He-Man. I'm like, by making him sacrifice himself to save all of Eternia, like that's not sidelining, or he's not stepping aside. That's heroic. Like that's the point of a hero and stuff.
Right, he didn't go too hot for me. Where's the exit? You know, it's
exactly.
like I also feel like if I mean, to come to your defense, the thing that frustrates me so much about this like lie thing, right?
Yes.
Is that people are coming up, knocking on your door and saying like, is it true that this happens in episode 4? Fucking 9 months before the show comes out.
Mm-hmm.
Well, how are you supposed to answer that question? You want people to watch the thing in real time. You want to see the story unfold. You don't want to preload those expectations. You got to get tricky with your words to be able to weave around these traffic cones. And
I didn't even think I was tricky with words. I literally said Tila does no stepping aside.
I think you were. Yeah.
She has a friend who's a girl, but not a girlfriend. She does not wield the sword of power.
Right.
I'll just tell you right now, man. Fucking, this is another spoiler. And Netflix is gonna be like, shut your fucking mouth. But she never wields the sword ever in any of the episodes.
That's
like, so everything I said was like God's honest fucking truth. And a bunch of people are like, you better apologize for lying. I'm like, I didn't lie. All of those things are fucking factually true.
But it's like rolling up to George Lucas and going like, why haven't you acknowledged that Darth Vader is Luke's father? And he's like, it's 1975. Slow your roll. I haven't shot the first one yet. Wait your turn.
I feel, look, the folks have been saying, you apologize to Clownfish. Clownfish was the operation that website and video show and stuff, whatever it is. And I'm not dismissing it. I have to be so fucking careful because anything I say, they're like, you're attacking Clownfish. And I'm like, not at all. I've always been very fucking kind to Clownfish. But regardless, Clownfish, the people are saying you lied to Clownfish. You got to apologize. And I honestly fucking believe with my heart, I put my child's life on it. None of those things I said are fucking lies. They're all factual shit. I will apologize for like leaning into it and tweeting and then hitting it again, tweeting again later on, simply to obfuscate from what I felt like was the thing I didn't want anyone to know. Same day that Clownfish's tweet goes up, there's some other tweet that said something to the effect, and again, we're spoiling the show, so hopefully everyone's seen it, that said something to the effect of, I hear they kill Adam in episode 1. So right then and there, I'm like, Jesus Christ, we're like fucking months away from this thing coming out. If this out, it's like, oh man, that's going to suck. And not because I'm like, oh, they'll all hate me and shit for emasculating He-Man. More because like, I just didn't want to spoil what was a cool thing.
Not only that, I mean, they're putting the spoiler.
Let me finish.
Oh, yes,
Internet,
yes, please,
remember?
please,
So,
yes, internet.
While I was sitting there going like, oh shit, they're going to start talking about this, over here is a conversation that I can address. Like, that's like where they're like, hey man, I hear He-Man steps aside, Tila, has a girl, all the things I said. So I was like, I can answer this and maybe take attention away from this over here. And mercifully, that never got louder.
Yeah.
Like nobody ever knew. So that when the first episode played for people, they were surprised.
Yeah.
So I hope. I mean, some far too surprised and very vocal about it on Twitter. Which, like, again, I understand. Like, I'm a fan of things. I don't get that vocal if somebody does a thing that I don't care for and stuff like that. Like I love Twin Peaks. I didn't care for the Showtime sequel years later, but you didn't see me on the net going, what the fuck, David Lynch, you ruined my childhood and shit like that. It's just like, generally for me, you'll never hear about the shit that I don't like. That's just kind of the way like I operate and stuff. But as a fan of things, I understand what people like, it's not what I fucking wanted it to be and stuff. And that's absolutely fair. I'm a man of peace. I don't like fighting with fucking people. It so irritates me that this is going on, that there is a contingency of people. And mind you, like we're talking about it like it's everything and stuff. It's a very vocal contingency that I pointed out. Like at one point I talked to my Netflix friends and I was like, I mean, did you see this? Like, are we in trouble? And they were very kind. And this is not meant to mock anybody, but they were like, Kevin, do you think we decide to pick up other seasons of shows based on the audience rating at Rotten Tomatoes? And I was like, you don't? And they're like, fuck no. And so at that point, like, it didn't matter. And then, I mean, this like is here. I'm like, this ain't me being smarmy. I know someone's going to paint it otherwise and shit like that. This is just me being honest. If you don't like something, kids, don't fucking talk about it.
Yeah.
Because when you draw attention to it, somebody else goes, what's that? So there was an article that went up, few articles. The one I saw was on Uproxx, and there's a few other sites that talked about how we were review bombed, which is a practice where a bunch of people like fucking hit a project hard with reviews. I retweeted it, and people were like, hey man, fucking you only got bad reviews because it sucks. This is not review bombing and shit. These aren't bots. These are real fucking people. And
Eat my butthole.
Yes. I get it.
Yeah.
I'll happily eat your butthole.
Yeah.
I was not saying
all
that.
You had to do was ask.
Yeah.
Ask kindly.
Totally. Right there.
Yeah.
Fucking. But this was, you know, like I all that butthole talk really distracted me.
Sorry. You're hungry.
I am. I'm
week,
ready to eat a fucking butthole after 160 fucking hours and shit. Fuck, what were we talking about?
The review bombing, putting attention on a thing you don't like. Yes. Streisand effect.
It's the Streisand effect. That's absolutely right. There's an articles talking about this review bombing. I have nothing to do with the articles. I retweeted the one article and I said, like, oh, at least we're in good company. They did this to the boys and Captain Marvel. Many people were very quick to point out they only did this to the boys because they were putting out one episode a week. And Captain Marvel, like, why would you compare yourself to that? If those are your two, you know, fucking rocks you're standing on, you're fucked and shit like that. So, you know, when people hate a thing, they fucking find a way to defeat you on every point and every turn. And so they were acting like I said that we'd been review bombed. I was literally fucking quoting an article that was up. That review bombing thing, like it was so weird because I'd been a witness to it from the outside in other occasions. I remember when that happened to the boys and I was like, how strange. And when it happened to Captain Marvel, you know, never did I thought we'd be at the epicenter of it, but there we were and stuff. And so naturally I was like, oh my God, what does this mean? Like, is it going to bum anybody out or are we going to fucking be in trouble? And the folks upstairs like put it on Front Street. And this is not me being a dick, man. This is just me kind of explaining like how counterproductive it is to go all in against something you hate. Their reaction was like, Kevin, this is amazing for the show. And I was like, yeah, but all these people are mad. They were like, yes, it looks like about 5,000 to 10,000 people have written nasty things. And they were like, but we have 210 million subscribers. And I was like, oh, so mathematically we're safe? They're like, safe as kittens. So like you can do it. And I ain't trying to stifle anybody's freedom of speech. Absolutely. Go ahead and stuff. But it won't do what you think it's going to do. Yeah. I too, like them, was like, oh my God, this is a bad thing. And they were intending to do a bad thing. And I'm not saying it's a nefarious plot or bots and shit, but all the people, like, it's a little suspect that are, you know, what is it called? Fucking certified fresh. Yeah. And then our audience rating is like in the toilet and shit.
Right.
But so just so everyone doesn't say like, he thinks it's a fucking conspiracy. I'm not saying that. That's what I read. I don't know what to think at this point and shit like that. But I do know this much. Based on what I was told by the people that like pay my salary, that doesn't matter to them. Like they literally don't care. Somebody been send me tweets where like I was on Comic Book Men one season and I was like, yeah, I was a big He-Man fan and shit like that. And they're like, aha! Like as if Netflix was gonna be like, Kevin, you should have told us. There's the door, you know, like that shit doesn't like matter to anybody who writes a fucking check or something like that. So yeah, you can like rumble, young man, rumble by all means. I was 20 once and I fucking hated things as well. So and pop off as much as you like. Come at me on Twitter. My Twitter stream is like honestly, but 95% love fest of people who are like, this is amazing and blah blah. Very complimentary. I thank all those people. And then 5% of you ruined my childhood. You're a cuck. Fucking a lot of very derogatory. And then some people who aren't even derogatory who just write long tweets about how I ruined it and stuff like that. Long, thoughtful tweets. So, you know, in that stream, it's still positive. Like it's like I'm like, other than, you know, me going like, oh my God, this Uproxx article and reaching out to the powers that be. The moment that they were like, oh, what are you doing? Like, don't worry about it. Suddenly I got to kick back and like literally enjoy what's going on. I mean, we worked real hard to pull this
You were
together.
Sweating bullets this morning when I showed up at the stash. And I said like, look, I'm reading fucking everything against my therapist's suggestion.
That's what I got to get. Somebody in my life
Yeah.
was like, why are you reading this?
That's also not true. My therapist retired years ago, which is why I'm reading the comments. but I said, like, look, man, I'm reading all of it, and most of it is so positive, and the people who are positive for the exact reasons we hope. And then we got to spend the day today, actually, after a pandemic, coming face to face with people and having them really say what they,
At the Revelation celebration of the stash.
Plug. But that
You
stuff
can't plug something
means a
that's
lot.
sold out.
I can plug things. No, because people listening to this in the future, they've invented time travel, and they're like, I'll go back, I'll get a ticket for
Could
that.
you imagine? That would
Oh.
mean we might have time travelers in this audience
that,
as well.
Yeah, that would be cool.
Anybody here kill baby Hitler?
I'll say,
My man was
Hey.
like,
congrats. Thank you, Mazel. I'm Jewish. I can make the joke. The thing I was gonna say, this is once again, people allowed to dislike the thing, allowed to criticize it.
Yeah.
Absolutely, right? Yeah. This is the thing that bums me out, is a lot of the sentiment I have seen, the negative sentiment comes with this tinge of like, why did you waste your time doing this or putting this in the show? Real fans don't care about that, right? And inevitably, a lot of that stuff will circle back to the presence of female characters or people of color or certain subjects, or themes, or this or that.
there were certain hot buttons for
Right.
a lot of people.
Haircuts.
Tila, of course, is one.
People furious about haircuts.
Yeah, and they're like, "Oh man, that's like ripped off." I was like, "Yeah, it was ripped off. We stole it from Kyler Lee on Supergirl.
Yeah,
She did that to her
cool.
hair one year. I was like, that looks wicked. Let's do that."
Yeah,
to
she
Tila."
looks awesome. But yes, it is always framed with this, like, that's not what the real fans care about. Why are you doing this stuff that's going to go wasted on real fans? And the thing I really don't like, and I say this as non-antagonistically as possible, is fans defining which fans count. Other fans count.
Yeah.
Because you're looking at something like Motu that's 40 years old, has had all these different things. I was saying to you earlier today, the first stuff written for Motu was the mini comics that came with the figures, because they didn't have a show on the air yet.
Yep.
And when the show comes out, they negate a lot of the stuff in the mini comics. And you see fans online who go, once they started the cartoon show, the thing was over for me. Right? I was out. Then they ruined the character. I liked him better when he was a barbarian. He went and met a green lady and she gave him a harness. Right? That was for me.
That is the mini comic.
Right. That's the last time He-Man was good for me. And then there are people who go, it ends when Filmation ends. I only like the 2000X version. I like the comics. I like this. I like that. Right? People like it for different reasons, and different people like it for different reasons.
Very true.
And these people,
and some people, there are a lot of people who seem mad at us who were big fans of the Mike Young production 2002 version. They're like, you fucked that up. And I'm like, but we couldn't even touch that. That wasn't allowed, allowable for us to play with and stuff. So we didn't fuck that up. And then you realize that's their masters of the universe.
Right. And that's no more or less valid. Right. And the other part of it is some of the people who are not just fans of this thing, but like pillars of the community, people who are hosting podcasts and doing fan art and doing cosplay and writing the bios on the back of the action figures, are people who are part of the communities that you're saying don't matter and don't count as real fans. Not to mention the people who work on these things themselves, built the building blocks of the things you're loving in the first place, have played these roles, have written these parts, have done this animation, what have you. It's a big bummer when I see people going like, why are you trying to please them? They're not real fans. Who are you to say you're a real fan? I'm not going to tell you you're not a real fan just because you're being a dick to these other fans. Yeah. That's your choice. You're a real fan.
It's always been fandom, though, as far back as I can recall. It's a bunch of people dressed like stormtroopers going, look at those fucking jerks dressed like Vulcans.
Right.
But, it's tribal. I've always gotten that. And going into this, I mean, I'll be honest with you. Like, I've always felt like, oh my God, everyone will love this. Like, it's so sweet. And it, it's not even me taking credit going, I'm a great writer. I had a lot of help. And also, even the shit I did by myself was predicated on shit other people did years and years ago. So there was very little creativity involved. There was very much taking all the assets and all the backstory mythology and shaping something fairly new and stuff. So like in doing that, I had a lot of help. The Powerhouse Animation kids, our directors, Pat and Adam, writers in and of themselves and how much they added to the show and whatnot. So this ain't just me going like, I like what I do, so I thought everyone else would. But I felt like for the first time in my career, like I made something that more than Kevin Smith fans would enjoy. And I was like, wow, and it works. And like, I think it's going to play. And it's doing that for a lot of people, but some people it's not doing that for it. But you know, in my child's heart, I hope that it would have blanketed everybody. I hope it would have made people happy. Like I've never once tried to be fucking divisive in my career. It's like a running joke in my fucking career. I've been doing this shit 27 years. And then I wind up doing shit that like makes people mad. And it's not my intention. There's some people that are provocateurs who like go out of their way to fucking piss the audience off and stuff like that. I'm so not that guy, man. I'm just like fucking like, I'm a stoner. I'm like, I don't want no fucking hassle and shit. And my whole career, like shit will happen where it's, you know, like fucking Chasing Amy. Some people got mad. Dogma.
Yeah.
A lot of fucking people got mad and shit with the death threats.
Yeah.
Jersey Girl, oddly enough, a lot of fucking people got mad. Fucking yoga hostess, like periodically, Mallrats, even some people got mad. People that loved Clerks were like, fuck this Mallrats. Maybe we put you where you are and this is what you make. Fuck that. So there's no matter what you intend, like, and I had the purest intentions for Masters of the Universe. Like you'll wind up hitting people who are like, you suck. But this is one of those moments that links up with the other big you suck moments in my career. Now, some of those moments turned out later on, I didn't suck so hard. Like Mallrats, they came after me hard going, this sucks, particularly the critics. And 10 years later,
sequel.
Exactly.
Right.
10 years later, the audience found it and fell in love with it and shit like that. So I know I've been doing this long enough to know like this will absolutely pass. I know there's some people that some people send screenshots of I've canceled my Netflix subscription and shit like that.
Right, it's like good luck watching Bridgerton now. You're only hurting yourself. What are you going to talk about around the office? Come on, you're playing yourself.
You know, it's there's 5 more to go. Hopefully, when they see the people that see them, people that enjoy it will enjoy it even more. And then hopefully the people who are like, this isn't what I wanted, will be like, now this is what I'm fucking talking about. But there will always be, I feel like, a contingency of people that are like, no, this is not it for me.
Yeah.
So I've gotten like the single best reviews of my career. I got a certified fucking fresh rating on Rotten Tomatoes. That never happens for any Kevin Smith shit whatsoever. But oddly enough, if you look over at the audience score, it's like the worst of my career and stuff. So, you know, and one, neither truly tells the story, I guess.
Yeah.
The truth is somewhere in between. But I know it's being watched a lot.
Yeah.
So we'll see what happens there.
It's exciting. It's exciting. I mean,
Bam is in here, man. He's here on the screen.
Oh, hey there.
I just want to put out there that, you know, there's 130 other episodes of Masters of the Universe that people can watch if they don't like your 5. You didn't go and take their DVDs away. I went through this as a big Star Wars fan when Disney erased the expanded universe, and I was like, my Timothy Zahn book is still on the shelf. I can go read it. They didn't come here and take it, you know. So like, I'm sure in those 130 episodes, there were some episodes that people didn't like, and you just don't rewatch them. You know, there's a ton of He-Man out there, and that's awesome.
More as well. Like, if you know, it's like anything else. Like, this is not mine. I didn't create it and stuff. If you don't like this iteration of Masters of the Universe, just wait 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Like, another one's coming down the pike. There's literally another show coming. He-Man and the Masters of the Universe, it's called, and it's a CG version of the show. Beautiful as hell. And I think when we're over, that show starts. But even just regardless of that, someone else is going to pick this up in the next 5 years and make it theirs and stuff. And they might make it the version that you're hoping for if you really hate the shit out of this. But the people that are loving the shit out of this, they're not wrong. You know, just like I'm not saying you people who don't like it are wrong. The people that like it aren't wrong either. And fuck, are they loving it, man. I've seen so many moving fucking tweets, lots of tweets of kids like when they were kids in the 80s with their Castle Grayskulls and their figures and stuff like that. People who have been lifelong fans who were just like, this is everything that I ever wanted it to be, and blah, blah, blah. So
a dude posted a photo of his little daughter, like a toddler, standing in front of the screen holding up the sword. You know?
That's awesome.
Rules. I just want to butt in, JC, and just say, don't encourage them to watch the other 140 episodes because we don't get residuals off of that. So we can.
That was another Orko, JC.
But watch these 5 like multiple times.
By all reports, that's what's happening.
It's look, I mean, you know, a couple of times have foolishly waded in and poked the bear a little bit and just said like, what is your problem with this on Twitter, right? And
See, I don't even do that.
I know
like,
I shouldn't. Once again, my
I
therapist
don't
is
feel like
retired. It's not my
I
fault.
poked the bear.
It's hard to find a new one. But I'm not poking confrontation. I'm really trying to like figure like what's your problem with this? Because I'm like I am a genuine fan. I almost said real fan after going on my anti who is a real fan rant,
really.
right? But I'm a genuine fan of this stuff. And I'll sort of say like I think this and that, whatever. And they go, well, of course, you're paid to defend it. And I go, no, I'm paid to say the words. And then they can't tell me what the fuck to say after that, right? They're not sending me on this press tour. I'm not Mark Hamill. I'm not going to get the views up. You're asking me to do this because I was local, right? It was cheaper to bring me over here. But the point is, it's true. It's true. It's
But
true.
also, more importantly than that, I had such a blast on the George Lucas talk show.
Well, yes, it was
Like, I'm not even shit. I'm not blowing it off because he's here. It was absolutely one of my favorite things I did last year.
You were great
talked
on the
about
show.
it. It was so fucking fun. Who's the other? Who's plays George Lucas?
Connor Ratliff, who for my money is the funniest person in New York City, and he's been doing this for years. He interviews real celebrities as George Lucas, in character as George Lucas, and I'm sort of his Ed McMahon as Watto.
So he dresses like Watto.
I got the whole
show.
thing. Yeah. And Kevin was on. He was amazing. If you want to look for it on YouTube, it's up there. But I you know what I want to say to these people is like I've been in stuff that fucking sucks, right? Like most of my career is garbage, is diarrhea, right? Trying to pay the
And
rent.
that's why we made him Orko.
Yeah. No, but the point is like when I'm in a thing that sucks, I just don't say anything. You know, I'm not going out there and promoting it. No one's paying me to promote this, you know, and even doubly so because I was a fan of this beforehand. If I fought this hard to get the part of Orko, I had this fear, like, oh my God, I want this so badly. And then I go, wait a second, what if these suck? Like, what if these scripts are garbage and I'm the guy who made Orko a loser, right? And then I read them and I went, I love these. I don't know what people are going to think of them, but for me as a fan, this is like the thing I've always wanted to see. And so I'm out there defending it genuinely. You can believe that or not, but I will just say, I've said shit I should have said before about things I were involved in. I'm not known for being a very strategic person in that sense,
Right.
To the detriment of my own career. But this is a thing I genuinely love, and I watched it last night. You know, I finally got to see the whole thing, and it's just, God, this is like in my mind's eye the show I've always wanted to see, and it's exciting. I know everything that's gonna happen. I'm still excited.
When you died, did you get emotional?
Yeah. And I'll say this. I mean, this is what I love about animation. Every time I've been in something on camera, I'm watching it. I'm not getting emotional because I'm like, does my nose really look like that? You know? But this, I'm like, man, Orko's a good actor. Look at his eyes here. And I'm like, yeah, I can't take any credit for that. I'm not distracted. And it's just the writing. It really is. It's the writing and the animation. You know, I'm plugging my ears and not listening to what I'm saying. But like, it really does. It hits for me. I was watching it, knowing everything that was going to happen. And every beat played for me as it should, you know? And then the weird magic of it, like, watching them, I'm like, God, this evil Lynn Orko dynamic is so cool. And I'm not thinking about the fact that I'm that guy because it's 1,000 other people have touched it along the way, have drawn it, and she's done her dialogue, and all of you have taken your pass on every line and all this sort of stuff.
All the powerhouse animation kids in Austin loved you, A, because your performance is wonderful, but B, because Orko has no mouth.
Well, yeah.
There's no sync necessary.
Right. You brought me in for some last minute redubs because you're like, this is the one character we can add new dialogue for and it doesn't cost us a goddamn cent. You gotta change his lips.
Yeah. Normally when you like, you know, if you're far along in the process and you're like, wait, we want to change something, you know, it's like fucking turning a ship because you've got to go reanimate that sequence so the lip flap syncs up and stuff. So there were a few times we did that. There's a line in episode 10 from Man at Arms that we changed only like 4 weeks ago and had to match up what we were doing because they were locked, so we couldn't like just have them reanimate that piece. So episode 4, when they go to Subternia, you know, it used to open with them walking around and it was quiet and it was just atmospheric and stuff like that. I'm used to people telling me like, take out the dialogue. There's too much dialogue. So I didn't put any dialogue in. And then the Netflix note we got back after we saw the first animated pass was like, let's put some dialogue in this section. So, you know, the Powerhouse kids were like, oh my God, we're going to have to reanimate and stuff. And I was like, well, I can write it for Orko. And if Orko does it, there's no lip flap. And they're like, thank you. So the poem that he said, the Trollin Nursery
Right.
was, I think, one of the last things you did.
Yeah. Can I let me say something to compliment you. When we went in for the first record, it was a marathon. We were doing first pass at least the first 4 episodes, I think, all at once. And there was the spell at the beginning, the first episode where he puts Cringer in the bubble. And you went like, the spells are we should have written more spells. And this man came up with like 5 spells off the dome, and those things have to rhyme.
I know, but they're real simple baby rhymes.
I don't know. I'm easily impressed.
It's not like I was Eminem in the room.
I can't spit
fucking
bars.
fire and shit.
I was impressed.
I was like, bubble, trouble. There you go. I can fill in the blanks.
I mean, my mediocre impression of you is you'd go, okay, kids, pencils out. Every time you had a new line, you go, pencils out.
Well, we were trying to beat the line when we were recording. This is your last bite at the apple, right?
Yeah.
And like, scripts are great, but you're like, oh, like that line works, but what if we did this? So you're like, hey man, let's throw that out. Try this. And then sometimes you hear a line, you're just like, that didn't work. It's not because of the actor, just the line kind of lays there and stuff. So at that moment, we'd be like, all right, kids, pencils out. Let's beat this line.
Pencils out. No, but yes, you know, as an actor, with on camera stuff, the worst part of the job, I would argue, even ahead of waking up early, is ADR.
Yeah.
Where they're trying to fix dialogue, but it's the image, it's done, and then
you have to sync it to a picture. They play it on a picture in front of you, and you have to say it along with the old version of yourself and try to make it sync.
And sometimes it's like, oh, there was a car passing by, we missed that word. You're watching your face, I'm like, why am I pronouncing that weird, and trying to match it so it sounds natural and not like a poorly dubbed martial arts movie or whatever. But the other part of it is sometimes they're going like, we didn't get this line, we got to fit it in here. You go, fit it in where? There's not. I'm on screen for 2 seconds. I'm clearly saying a different word. I'm saying fuck. You want me to say thank you? You know, it's not gonna work. And with Orko, it's like his eyes are looking to the left. So can you just say it like his eyes are looking to the left? It's like, yeah, that's easy.
Yeah. That's an easy directional performance where you're like, that's all.
You just got the scarf. Yeah.
It was magical work, sir. And
such a pleasure.
Again, like I don't want to spoil anything for anybody, but I suspect Griffin will be back when we put up the next 5, because we'll have some things to talk about at that point. That being said, that was a fuck ton of content, kids. Give it up for Griffin Newman. That was amazing. Hold the bottom.
Oh yes.
Bottom.
The bottom. There we go.
Everybody leaves here tonight gonna walk away with one of these amazing posters, man. This is the final poster for the show. It's got a fuck ton of characters, all of which show up in our show. So when you guys head out tonight, they'll give you one of those all rolled up to take with you. The artist's name escapes me, but I don't want to ever like leave an artist uncredited. So let me just scroll down on my Twitter.
While you're scrolling, can I say something to this audience?
Absolutely.
This was my first time doing anything in front of a crowd where the societal expectations that you're supposed to pay attention to me, also known as a show. Who are you, Roboto? But in like 20 months or whatever it's been, it's so nice to be in front of a crowd again. I'm a stupid comedy dude, and I miss being in basements and dank places, and you do web shows and things like that, and it's really not the same. This is the juice. And that having been said, I really appreciate you folks being so great and so cooperative and wearing masks and doing the dorky thing and all that sort of shit. But I gotta ask a favor of all of you, which is I need to pee so badly.
Go.
Please.
It's here's the weird thing. It's right.
I know, I'm aware.
Wall.
That's why I'm bringing it up, because like I'm gonna ride out as you finish up, but then let me go. Just please let me go. I'm gonna run. I'll be super quick.
We're not even done. We're about halfway through the show. So you can totally go pee. Just know that we're all going to listen.
Cool. I'm going to do it. Yeah.
Make it loud. The poster is by Nathan Birch. It's gorgeous. Such a gorgeous poster. The good folks at Netflix sent that over for us. We were giving them out at Revelation Celebration while Griffin's voiding the little Orko. Anybody have a Motu question? Of course, we'll do our Q&A later on. But does anybody have a question about Revelation that I can answer for you right here while we're stalling for time. Castle Keeper Ernie O'Donnell. There's a hand right there, ready to bring a mic right to you. That's service. Give it up for Castle Keeper Ernie O'Donnell,
Thank
ladies
you.
and gentlemen.
Thank you. I'm always curious, especially since, a few weeks ago we found out some things Batman doesn't do. When you were in kind of the planning
If you're
process throughout
asking
the
me, does
writing.
He-Man eat pussy? Yes, he does.
Okay, awesome. Yeah. No, but was there anything maybe because you were working with a lot of other big fans and, we know you're a fan, maybe somebody stepped in and said, hey, that's not what they would do?
Yeah, absolutely.
Any good examples?
This is why I never worried about oh, people are going to hate the show, because my bosses were two of the biggest Masters of the Universe fans on the planet. So over at Mattel Television, the guy that hired me, Rob David, he's not just a suit at Mattel. He has been writing Masters of the Universe comic books for DC for the last 2 years, Attorney of War, shit like that. So he's forgotten more about Motu than most will ever know. And on the other side, we had the aforementioned Ted Biaselli, Anime Ted on Instagram, if you will, who we're living in his dream. The whole reason this fucking show exists is because of Teddy. I've told the story many times. I'll tell it one more time. When I met him to pitch the show, and he was like, you know what? That's great. Let's do that. And I got hired. He told me, he was like, when I was a kid, I watched every episode of this show, and I fucking was terrified that Skeletor was going to kill He-Man every time. He's like, then I got 5 years older, and I realized that was never going to happen. All I'm asking you to do is make the version of the show that I thought I was watching when I was a kid. I just want to believe there are stakes. I want to believe that people can get killed in the show and stuff. So we had a moment where I wrote how the project was is I came up with an outline, and then we brought in the writers, and then the outline got better and shit because everyone was throwing in stuff. It's like making a soup where everybody brings ingredients and shit. But in my pilot, it's barely pilot, in the first episode, there's a moment where, a very opening He-Man, or what looks like He-Man, and, a couple reprobates that he's bringing to Castle Grayskull. The sorceress flies out of the eye of Grayskull in Zor form, and then met them on the grounds. And Teddy called me, and he was just like, that would never happen. And I was like, I don't know how to tell you this, Teddy, but none of this shit would ever happen. You got to be more specific. And he was just like, well, she can't leave the castle. She can't leave Grayskull. So she can fly out in bird form as a Zor, but if she's going to maintain the form of the sorceress, she has to be connected to Grayskull. He's like, so you can put her on the drawbridge, but she can't step off the drawbridge. Little things like that make the difference, so that true fans, and I'm not saying true fans as opposed to the people who are mad, they're true fans as well. But true fans would have caught that right away. And that's the opening minutes of our series, and might have been like, well, this fuckers don't know what they're doing and shit like that. So we had Scylla and Charybdis around us at both times, and they didn't smash us and destroy us. They would come in and fucking mold us, make it better, because they knew everything. So we couldn't step off the path. I was literally never afraid of pissing off the fan base at all because of those two cats. Because I'm like, Jesus, they're not gonna let me go wrong. It's Rob's job to make sure that we sell a bunch of fucking toys. So naturally, they didn't want to step off the path. They wanted to make sure that this thing worked in a way for everybody. And Teddy too was like, I want to do more of this. He wants to do many seasons, not let's do it once. He's got a vision and shit like that. So, and I'm not, I'm trying to, how much can I say? Before there's going to be more. That's all I'm saying for now and stuff. But I never felt oh my God, we'll fuck this up somehow because of those guys. That was the moment that leaps to mind though, right away. And it echoes throughout the entire show. Second half of the show, the idea of the sorceress not being able to leave Grayskull is a huge fucking plot point. And so in saying that, I was like, oh shit, is that real? I was like, all right. And suddenly it made the whole fucking show better. God bless you. And helped me redevelop like the back five. So yeah, it did happen. And I'm not like one of the, like, this isn't me making a Jay and Silent Bob movie, for example. Like, as we announced earlier this week, we're making fucking Clerks 3. When you guys aren't sitting here, this is the production offices for Clerks 3. We did our production meeting in here. We're going to do our script reading next week right in this room and shit like that. So like, I'm making my thing, and I'm open to people being like, oh, you should try this, or would you think of this, or blah blah blah. But if anyone was ever like, oh, Randall wouldn't do this, I was like, the fuck you say? Because that shit's mine. I could I dictate exactly what the Buscu characters do and don't say. Masters of the Universe is not my property by any stretch of the imagination. I'm literally playing with somebody else's toys. So I could never sit there and be like, well, what the fuck? I need her to be outside the castle for my scene to work and shit. Like, I was always interested in towing the line because, like, ironically, I never wanted any true fan to have an upsetting experience. I wanted them to feel like, oh my God, my toys are exactly where I left them, and I'm still gonna play with them even though I'm this age. So yes, there were definitely moments, but they weren't moments of like, you can't do this. Like, I didn't go for anything Kevin Smith, you know what I'm saying? Like, I wasn't like, let's fucking put in, somebody's got to say 69, huh? Although there is a Fisto joke, I'll be honest with you.
What if they smoke Moss Man?
Yes,
Right.
yeah, that's a fucking, where were you
Season
in the writer's room?
Season 2.
A good fucking
Additional
idea.
material by.
You ain't just a funny guy. You're a writer, my friend. So yes, hopefully that answers the question. All right, Griffin's back. He's done taking a leak and stuff.
And any questions about the leak, I'm happy to answer. It went pretty well. It's the fourth seltzer that gets you.
That's the one.
That's the one. That's the point of
Did you
no
shake
return.
or tap?
I do a little bit of both.
Whoa, little surf and turf, ladies and gentlemen. Griffin Newman. Okay, news. Things happen, and I asked Nate. Normally, of course, Mark, who we miss and love. Mark is spending, as we talked about last week, this weekend with his mom is in town, so that's why he's not doing the show. Luckily, Griffin's here, so bam, we get to do a show. Normally, Mark like digs up the news, right? He's always the guy, make a big deal about it and shit like that. So, oh my God, this is name droppy, but Bobby Moynihan just dropped me a text and he goes, "Hey man, it's Bobby Moynihan. Just wanted to say fantastic job with Masters. Truly enjoyed. Hope all is well." It's fucking nice. What a sweet fucking text.
Look, I don't want to name drop. Bobby Moynihan texted me this morning, so I maybe got the Bobby Moynihan text a little bit earlier.
He texted you as well?
Yeah, he's a big Orko fan.
Really?
I know him primarily from doing George Lucas talk show and having mutual comedy friends, but he was like, "Man, I love Orko so much. I'm so excited to see what you guys do." And then his next question was, "Is someone else playing Ram Man? Because I want Ram Man."
Is that it's been cast.
I mean,
I gotta get him in something. I love
Yeah.
him. Okay. I asked Nate, the Dark Nate Returns Gonzalez, who does all our show art, the art that's behind us and whatnot. I say, "Hey man, can you pull some news stories for me like Mark did?" And Mark does, and he goes, "I would be honored." However, he just wrote, before we get into the news stories, "Please thank Griffin and Mark for writing this specific moment for his performance, especially the moment where he's talking to Evelyn on the boat about forgetting all of his adventures. Memory loss is a less talked about symptom of deep depression, and I doubt I was the only person who related to that monologue. Beautiful moment. Come on, bro."
that's correct. But in fact, the person he talks about memories to is Andra. So point negated. Compliment rejected. You're not a real fan. No, I related to that hard.
It's a really sweet moment, really
Yeah.
beautiful moment where he's so like, at that point, you're like, Jesus, is this guy ever going to cheer up? Like, he's always like, "I'm so old and sad, Andra." And then when magic comes back, he gets all
Right.
right.
There's also this kind of cool meta thing to it where he is like, "Look, I forget. Like I did 140 episodes of that original show. You expect me to remember all of them?"
It's true. Very
Yeah.
true. Okay, here are the news stories that Nate pulled for us. Normally Mark Bernardin does it, but Nate did it for us. Nate Gonzalez found us the news. Give it up for Nate Gonzalez. Found us the news. Okay, here's the collection news he picked out. Old is projected to beat G.I. Joe Origins Snake Eyes at the box office. Old is projected to make just over 15 million, while Snake Eyes is looking like 14.2. Did anybody see either of those flicks?
Yeah, I saw Old last night.
How was it?
Love it. Love it. I mean, M. Night was the first guy we did on Blank Check. And at this point, I'm just like, I love you, you beautiful black bastard. You go for it. You know, he goes so goddamn hard.
Yeah.
And I loved him and then went through the arc. I think a lot of us did, where I was like, where did this guy go? You know? And then
Which one? Which movie was it for you? What that made you go? "Where'd this
Signs,
guy
I
go?"
started to get shaky. And then,
Signs. See, Signs.
not
worked
Signs. I'm sorry. The Village is when I got shaky.
Yes.
But like, and then it got shakier, and then I came back around, and now I'm like, Village rips. Like now I've come all the way back around to it. I watched it 10 years later with fresh eyes, and it's at a certain point, you know, you do your thing long enough, and people learn like that's their thing. Why would I critique them for doing their thing? Don't ask this guy to be Scorsese or Spielberg. Judge him relative to M. Night Shyamalan movies. And if you ask me as a fan of M. Night Shyamalan movies, Old's a good fucking M. Night Shyamalan movie.
Did you go see it in the theater?
I saw it in a theater. Yeah, I saw it in a theater last night.
Up in the city?
I did, yeah. Up
Oh, the
in,
city. He lives in
I live in,
New
New
York.
York
yeah.
City,
New
yeah.
York City. So
Yeah.
wait, were the theaters packed up there?
wasn't crazy packed. We went to a late showing. It was funny though, because it's like, you know, we all got this weird culture reputation with M. Night. Is he a joke or is he the master of horror? Right? Half the time he has us the palm of the hand. Half the time you're like, I knew it. I saw it coming. And there's like a really rowdy group of teenagers in front of us. And for like half the movie, they're like, suck my dick, like to each other, to the screen, to the AMC employees, to everyone. And it's like, look, I know we've all been cooped up for 18 months, but ask nicely. And please would go a long way. But then, you know, they're like having fun with the movie, making fart sounds, whatever. And then there are a couple scenes where it's like pin drop silent.
Really?
And then you hear them catch themselves and go like, and it's like, no, he got you.
Yeah.
He got you there. It's,
You got M. Nighted.
yeah, look, it's a goofy, wackadoo movie. This guy's told us who he is at this point. He likes to swing for the fences, you know? He wears his heart in his sleeve and he has big, ludicrous ideas. But I think there's some masterful filmmaking in that movie. It's divisive. Like, not everyone's going to love it. It's a very particular taste, you know? It's cilantro or whatever. It either hits your tongue the right way or it doesn't. But I deeply enjoyed it. Yeah.
You just got a little taste of Blank Check for free, ladies and gentlemen. Give it up for Griffin.
Yeah, I know. We don't even record that episode until Tuesday.
Oh, you were doing rehearsal? You're testing it out on us? You give it to the
What
rest
else?
of the world?
What else?
He also wrote Pam Grier is going to star in a Pet Cemetery prequel.
Cool.
Very nice.
I like anything that Pam Grier's in.
Walt Disney's grandson loses appeal and fight for $200 million inheritance.
Nice work if you can get it.
Yeah, really.
Yeah.
Fucking when you wish upon a star, you fucking lose.
You realize that by singing that on a podcast, you just added more money to the pot the grandson's fighting for, right?
That's, oh my God, it was
Yeah.
counterproductive. What if I
Exactly.
sing it out of key?
That's what you have to do.
So it's
When you wish upon a star.
do it as Orko.
When you wish upon a star. I'm trying to do off key and Orko is tough. Yeah.
Two things at once.
Yeah.
Shazam 2 spoiler.
Oh.
An image of Jaimin Hansu reportedly from the set of Shazam sequel surfaced online. He played the wizard,
Mm-hmm.
so I guess the wizard's back. Let's see what else. An update from Neil Blomkamp on District 10. I guess that's moving forward. Yes, Jordan Peele's next movie is simply called Nope. That's the name of the movie, and it stars Daniel Kaluuya, Kiki Palmer, and Stephen Yeun. This one was interesting, man. Christopher Marcus and Stephen McFeely. Marcus and McFeely, they wrote Endgame, but they also wrote all the Captain Americas. We had them on the show a long time ago. They're wonderful. They say that Steve Rogers, and they would know, they were the Steve Rogers screenwriters, lost his virginity during the events of Captain America, the First Avenger. In an interview with Yahoo Entertainment, Marcus and McFeely offered up their thoughts on the topic. I think he loses his virginity, McFeely said. Why do people think this guy's a virgin? McFeely suggested that Rogers likely got some action during his USO tour that introduced him as Captain America and saw him promoting Bonds. If you look like that and you're going city to city, you're signing autographs for the likes of the ladies that he's signing autographs for, I got to imagine that he lost his virginity, McFeely explained. I never thought about whether or not Captain America got fucked.
No, because we look like this. We go on tour. We're like, yeah, that doesn't happen. But he's right. If you look like Chris Evans,
You look like you're waiting for the super soldier serum yourself. I look like it went wrong.
Kevin, you joke about that, but I went to see that with my buddy Sam Rogal, and the second you see shirtless Steve Rogers, he turned to me and he went, "How did you not get this fucking part as the body double?" Like he was like, "That should be Chris Evans' face on your disgusting body." And I fired my agents. I didn't. I'm sorry. They retired along with my therapist.
The new Dune trailer. Did everybody see the new Dune trailer? Continues to look amazing. This is the big news, though. Michael B. Jordan and his production company, Outlier Society, are developing their own Black Superman project for HBO Max that centers on the Val Zod incarnation of the character, Collider has exclusively learned. So it was talked about like a while ago. J.J. Abrams, I guess, is making the Black Superman movie.
Ta-Nehisi Coates
Clark,
writing it. Yeah.
But now there's a separate Black Superman project, which is based on Val Zod, which is in continuity and stuff.
Right.
And a lot of people,
Different
when they
guy.
announced the Clark Kent Black Superman, were like, why don't you just do Val Zod? It's sitting right there. Apparently, they are doing Val Zod.
Yeah. Look, DC is going to take as many bites at the apple as possible. You shouldn't complain about DC not doing enough with their characters because they'll challenge you and give you 4 times more than you asked for. But this, I mean, it gets back to
Superman, like, can sustain a few incarnations.
Yes, absolutely.
And they've kept him on the bench for so long. I know there are a lot of fans that are like, why not Henry Cavill and stuff like that? Yeah, I'm like, why not Henry Cavill either? But I would take 9 Superman movies a year, like different adventures, different incarnations.
That's what's kind of cool for me about the landscape we're in right now. And it gets back to, fan response to Motu or whatever, where it's like, we used to live in a culture where if someone fucked up Batman, you're like, I guess no more Batman movies ever.
Yeah. After Batman and Robin, it was like, all right, it's all over. They'll never do that again.
Right. And then now it's like, if a Batman movie doesn't hit the public the right way, they're like, boy, we got 4 more Batman movies next month. Let's hope one of them works. Like we're spoiled, but it also means I think it is an opportunity to like be less precious about all of this, because you go to the comic book store, there might be 4 different titles centered around Batman in any given month, right? And true. They have different artists, and they have different continuities, maybe, or the same continuity, different writers, different takes, different focuses. And you don't go, this issue ruined Batman forever.
Right.
You go, okay, I guess I dropped that title from my pull list, and this is the one I like now until a new creative team takes over. And I think that's the time we're living in, where it's like, Superman we can have 4 or 5 different Supermans right now. We're big kids. We can take it. We can keep track.
And give it to him. He seems passionate about it.
Yeah.
So, like, I'd rather see it in the hands of somebody that cares about it. He's talking about producing it. It's not just a dude being like, oh, I got cast. He's like, I'm literally making this movie. He's willing it into existence.
Well, and he
seems like a big comic book fan.
He does. And obviously you've been very vocal about your history of this, but working on your Superman movie and all these things where here's what I want to do. Here's what John Peters wants you to do and all this sort of stuff. And is this Superman or isn't it? And all that, it's like, I read him in interviews when people were spreading rumors that he was going to do the J.J. Abrams movie. And he very early on said, like, Superman's got a lot of weight and history and baggage. I think what would be more interesting to me is a character that hasn't been on screen before. I'd like to have a fresh start, And there is something to being like, I'm the first guy to play this dude.
Yeah, as opposed to like the
I don't have to. Right.
It's true. Marvel Studios is thinking about starting their own in-house animation department, kids. EP Victoria Alonso, who I saw speak once, and boy, oh boy, was she good. And I was going in, it was like for a film school in Los Angeles. And somebody called me up and they're like, can you come speak to the kids and whatnot? It's like a graduation type ceremony or something. I said, yeah, absolutely. And, I was like, oh my God, I'm going to go over huge with the fucking kids. And it's Silent Bob and shit like that. I'm going to talk their language. I'm going to curse. It's going to be fucking great. Victoria Alonso was one of the other speakers. And I was like, I'm going to be way better than her. She was magic. Yeah. And she had on her side, like, I have a string of super successful movies that every one of these kids watch. And I'm like, hi, kids, I made Clerks once. She was great. She was absolutely magical. I've listened to her talk all the time. Here she says, we're going to have our animation branch and mini studio, and there will be more to come from that as well. Alonso said, we're super excited about animation, which is my First Love. Have you seen the trailer for What If?
Yeah, I think it looks awesome. And that's like, I mean, to this point, what we're just talking about with the Superman, it's like, that's kind of the moment I've been waiting for the last decade plus of MCU, is to get to that point.
Where
Like
they get so loose with it, where they're like,
Yeah.
this is what would happen if, like, this ain't canon.
you get
This
to
over
play,
here.
you get to have, I mean, I loved anytime there was a What If issue,
Yeah.
and still do, you know?
Collected What If as a kid.
Yeah, and
absolutely
I
loved it.
always loved like sort of self-contained miniseries when you had someone who just got to do their thing. It's not going to have ripples on the rest of the thing. You get to just throw it a concept. I think that show looks rad, and I'm really amped for it. It's the Marvel
Number
thing
one,
I'm
the
most
concept is
excited for.
fucking cool, of
Yeah.
course, as it has been proven for years. But the animation is fucking
It looks
stunning.
awesome, and
Yeah.
and fucking Jeffrey Wright as
Yes,
Uatu. That's
as
money
Uatu.
in the bank.
Yes.
Yeah.
This piece of news says The Rock is done with the Fast and Furious franchise. In a recent interview with the Hollywood Reporter, he was asked if he had seen Diesel's comments, which basically boiled their ongoing feud down to Diesel claiming his approach was a lot of quote unquote tough love. So The Rock said, I laughed and I laughed hard. I think everyone had a laugh at that, and I'll leave it at that. And then I wished him well, Johnson said, before essentially confirming that he would not be showing up in any future Fast and Furious films. I wish them well on Fast 9, and I wish them the best of luck on Fast 10, Fast 11, and the rest of the Fast and Furious movies they do that will be without me.
And I think that you don't turn your back on family even when family turns its back on you. And that is all I will say on this subject. My allegiances are clear.
He didn't read that part of the script, apparently. Didn't communicate
Apparently
over.
not. Yeah.
He's got plenty to do, man. Fucking, he'll have Black Lightning.
Yes. Yes.
No,
Black Adam.
Black Adam. you got him
Yes.
stoned.
Yes.
He'll have Black Adam.
Yeah,
A
but that
whole
guy's
fucking
pretty
series.
slow and pretty calm, right?
Yeah, very
Yeah. I like my movies Fast and Furious.
Winston Duke has confirmed that he is indeed reprising his role as M'Baku in Marvel Studios' highly anticipated sequel, Black Panther: Wakanda Forever. I thought he was good. He was really good in that. He
Yeah.
was also good in the Us movie as well.
He's a great actor.
He really is.
He's very, very compelling. I'm also just like, the Bozeman thing is obviously so deeply tragic. But it puts this movie in such an odd position, right?
Yeah.
Where like
How
when
do you
it,
go forward without your
well,
leading
to have
character?
a movie that's like that culturally seismic,
Yes.
it's like nominated for Best Picture. It's one of the highest grossing movies of all time. It really feels like it makes an impact on, the planet.
Yeah.
Really, I'm not being glib here. And
Put a
then,
dent in the universe for sure.
right, and then you don't get to make the obvious sequel. And who knows what that script would have been, right?
Right.
By all accounts, Coogler had a script that was pretty ready to go, thinking that Bozeman was going to be able to pull it out, And so it's just very interesting to be at a point right now where you're like, here's this huge movie. Obviously, there's a sequel. I have no idea what it is. I have no idea what their angle is. I don't know what they do around it. Any new piece of information I hear, I tend to be a fan of sequels that go lateral, that take a sort of offhand approach to what worked in the first movie rather than trying to top it, Like, for example, if you take Clerks and you move them from a convenience store to a fast food restaurant, that's lateral.
Yeah.
I'm just very excited to see what that
And the
movie
next
is.
one, we move it back to the convenience store. So that's backwards.
Well, it's still lateral though. It's on the same axis. But yeah, I'm excited to see what that movie is. I have no idea.
Which one?
Clerks 3.
You were talking about that.
Yeah, Black Panther 2.
Me as well. That was all the news that Nate came up with for us. Give it up for Nate, who found you the news. Such a beautiful fucking
So
poster.
cool.
All right, kids. Now we come to that portion of the evening that everyone waits for us, where you get to be part of the show. We open up for Q&A. Before we do that, let's check in with JC. Bamf man, come on. Oh, welcome back. How is the chat? Has to ride the chat pretty hard because people get kind of vicious and stuff like that to each other. I suspected this week there'd be a lot of enmity aimed at me. So how are we doing?
It's amazing when people like something how much quieter they are than when they don't like something. Meaning, a few people make a lot of noise.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
So what?
But I pulled some some of my favorite nice comments if you want to hear them.
Sure. I'll take your favorite.
Lena 316 said, top-notch work from Griffin in episodes 3 and 4, which I thought was cool.
Episode 1, though, could use some work. Should have taken another pass.
um,
Appreciate that.
Iron Ocean, this isn't about Motu, but said, Kev has found someone in Griffin who has his love for talking as much as him. I bet they could have a conversation for 8 hours and not even realize it.
At one point, I was just like, I could probably leave right now. He's got the whole show. Excellent job. Yes, he's a content generator.
And I liked this one, even though Mark's not here. Martine Hoker Martina said, the downside of Mark and Kevin working on a Masters of the Universe project is we aren't going to get the same salty and sweet juxtaposition of critical and celebratory reviews.
That's right. Mark's not going to be like, I love it. Mark's not going to be like, it could have been better. It finally gets spared. He seems to love it. Like he, especially his episode, and rightfully so. But he said here on the show, he was like, that's the first time I've ever seen something I've written be that close to the thing that it became, the final product.
I feel that way too. I'm someone who, even the few things I've done that I have been proud of before this moment, I watch it and I go, my head was a little bit better. Right. And this is the first time where I'm like, this is better than I ever thought it was going to be. And my expectations were unreasonably high.
Nice.
Yeah.
Oh, that's the good folks at Powerhouse Animation. They did such an amazing job. All right, Banff Man, you want to give us an at-home or an online question before we open it up to the good folks in the room?
Yeah, we so goddammit Russ in chat said he knew the basics of Masters of the Universe but was afraid he'd be lost. He says, nope, they do a great job of introducing it to a new fan. And then he goes on to ask his question, which is apt because you said there's no Kevin Smith jokes really in Masters of the Universe. So he wants to know which Masters of the Universe character would be the best one to smoke with.
The previously mentioned Moss Man.
But Moss Man is the one you smoke, maybe. It's like, who do you want to share Moss Man with?
Well, I think if you're going to...
It could be both, yeah.
I think if you're going to smoke Moss Man, you have to smoke Moss Man with Moss Man.
You certainly offer.
Yes. You don't treat him like a dealer where you're like, I just want my shit. I don't want to talk, man. Like, fucking, you got to like, hey, man, can I have a fucking green one? He gives you one, and then you're like, so 1,000,000 years old, huh? That rocks. Shit like that. I think Moss Man would be good to talk to because he could provide you with the substance that the conversation would be good over. I saw a few tweets this weekend, people impugning my use of marijuana, as they say that it ruined Masters of the Universe. So we'll leave weed right there. You? Same answer or different?
Man at Arms for me has that energy of like the mysterious roadie where you're like, if I could get this guy to cut loose, I'd hear some stories,
The mysterious roadie.
No, but it's like he's professional. If I could get him to undo 2 buttons, I'm going to get some scoops.
That's true.
So that would be my focus, is like, what's the craziest party you've ever guarded at the palace?
And he's just like, I think one of the main characters is my daughter. All right. Thank you for that, Banff Man. Now we need Castle Keeper Ernie O'Donnell to come on out here and work the audience. There he is. Give it up to Castle Keeper Ernie O'Donnell, ladies and gentlemen. Ernie, as you can see, is wearing that very fucking impressive SModcastle shirt, which if you don't have, you can pick up right next door at Quick Stop. That's right. Quick Stop Convenience, the home. Dante and Randall. And also, don't forget Jeff's Kiss shirts, ladies and gentlemen. They're still happening. You can go find that at jayandsilentbob.com. All right, Ern, I leave it up to you to pick. If you got a question, throw your hands in the air, wave them around like you just don't care. Ernie going to pick you, and then we'll get to it. Look at him being judgy and shit like that. He's like Joaquin in Gladiator. He's ready to fucking put his thumb up or down. And he picked one. Here we go, ladies and gentlemen. What's your name, sir?
Brian.
Give it up for Brian. He's going first. What can I do you for, Brian?
First, I only came back to pick up my Jay character, my Jay figure. You're taking care of for me.
So weird because I said to Jordan, we were in Jordan is Jay's wife, and like I said, this is the production.
It's a great way to
office.
get me back and spend $50. So by the way,
You'll definitely get it. But I saw it when we were in the other room. That's the where the producers and the AD work in our green room during the week and stuff. But I was pointing out to her, I was like, that figure up there, you have to get Jay to sign. And she was like, why don't you do it? And I was like, why me? And she's like, I was like, why me? You're his wife. And she goes, you're his first wife. So
true story.
I try. He didn't come tonight, but I promise you it will be signed. And then here's the better deal. Ready? Because I don't think we're going to do another show while we're shooting the movie for the COVID risk and stuff. So I will take it to the stash and Jay will sign it and it'll be there to pick up for sure.
Okay. Deal.
Was that the question?
No.
Oh, okay. Go ahead.
But second of all, the Motu, I grew up with it. I watched all 5 episodes. Loved every single one of them.
Thank you so much.
Amazing work. Amazing work.
Thank you.
Sure, the haters. But way back when, Clerks, when all this began 26, 27 years ago,
Mhm.
and you did all this, and then Mallrats and then LA and everything else in between, did you ever think it was going to come full circle and you'd be back in Jersey filming Clerks 3?
I never thought I'd leave New Jersey. I thought I would do everything here. A big point of pride at the beginning of my career was I'm not going anywhere. Like I'm going to live in Red Bank. Fuck everybody. Like, cause my job allows me like to go places to do the job. And in the beginning, I assumed I would make everything here. That was my dream. And then because of costs and stuff, they'd be like, no, you got to go to a state where we get a discount or a rebate or whatever. So that's how we wound up in Minnesota for Mallrats. Then we got to shoot Chasing Amy all around here, which was great. The only other movie other than Clerks that was filmed almost completely in New Jersey. There's some Manhattan scenes in Chasing Amy, but generally we spent a lot of time in Jersey doing it. Dogma, we didn't. That was in Pittsburgh. Jane Silent Bob Strike Back, we had 3 days here, including the out in front of Quick Stop. The rest of that was in Los Angeles. Fucking Jersey Girl, I didn't even really get to shoot in Jersey. A little bit in Paulsboro, but the most of the time we were based out of Philadelphia and stuff. So I've never been able to, replicate the experience of I made an entire movie in New Jersey like I did in the beginning of my career, which was my dream to do for the rest of my life and stuff. So it's nice after the heart attack and almost dying and shit like that to kind of bring it full circle and be like, okay, we're home. There was a point of contention about whether we'd be shooting here or in New Orleans, because in New Orleans, we replicated the Quick Stop, Jay and Silent Bob reboot, so much so that when my daughter came here for the first time to do Vegan Abattoir a couple of weeks ago, I was like, what do you think? She's like, oh, I've been here before. I was like, no, you haven't. And she was like, yeah, we shot a movie here. I was like, in New Orleans. And she was like, oh my God, you're right. I've never been to the real place. So it looks convincing as fuck. So we could have gone there and there would have been a big rebate and stuff like that. But I fought real hard to shoot here. I was like, come on, man, just give me this. Like, fucking that heart attack could come back and I could drop dead. I want to drop dead in Jersey if that's the fucking case. Let me drop dead on my movie set in New Jersey and stuff. So we got to come back here. We did get a state rebate and stuff, which is nice. That also made it possible. But did I think I'd come back? I never thought I'd leave in the first place. But I always knew that I would come back for like Clerks 3. I've been trying to make Clerks 3 for like 7 years. The good news is that this incarnation of Clerks 3 takes place at Quick Stop. The other incarnation of Clerks 3 barely touched Quick Stop. It was destroyed in Hurricane Sandy. So they spent the rest of the movie someplace else. This version is, I wrote a completely different version in January, and this one's more predicated on the heart attack that I had. I take my experience and I give it to Randall, which in many ways makes this Clerks a more personal experience, oddly enough, than Clerks 2. Clerks is insanely personal because I literally lived that life and said those things, and that was my whole world. Clerks 2 is a fabrication. I never worked at a fast food joint and stuff. I never had like my friends leaving me or something like that. All the stuff that happened in Clerks 2. I never went to a donkey show once. So like all of Clerks 2 is a fabrication, more of a movie. And I love that movie. Don't get me wrong. It's one of my favorite things I've ever done. But like there's personal things in it. But at the same time, that's not ripped from my life. That's a guy going, oh, what would those characters do if they were in someplace else? Whereas when those characters were written the first time, they were written for like, what would I do? What did I do? Clerks 3, oddly enough, is closer to Clerks 1 in as much as we're back at the convenience store, which is somewhere I did work and stuff. So that's factual. But more importantly, my experience, I get to give to my characters this time around. Not just the heart attack, but they also get to make a movie. So in a weird way, it's incredibly fucking personal in the way that the first Clerks was. But it has all the kind of feeling of Clerks too. So it's been an interesting ride to get to this moment, but I knew we'd be back here sooner or later. Especially like when we on the Jay and Silent Bob Reboot Road Trip tour, that was when I saw the space and I was like, this is open. We should fucking do something with this. And Ernie was like, I could build this. And that's where SModcastle came from. And we didn't do that like on a lark. I did that knowing that I was going to come back here. I did that knowing that we were heading towards Clerks 3. So it's wonderful to be back. I've been spending every day walking the hills and highlands, my hometown, replicating the walk that I used to take from my home on 21 Jackson Street up to Henry Hudson Regional. And then walking beyond that because it's not a long enough walk. Like I my whole life, I thought like, man, it took me like 45 minutes to get to school. I took this walk, fucking 15 minutes from door to door. And I'm like, well, so I barely fucking broke a sweat out and shit. So I had to extend the walk and whatnot. But it's been beautiful because everywhere I look is a fucking memory. You know, I don't have that much when I go to other cities to shoot a movie and stuff. You make memories because you're like, oh, this is like Pittsburgh. I've been to twice and stuff. First time I was on Dogma, made memories there. And then when we went back on Zach and Miri, made new memories. And then those memories were never shoot a fucking movie in the winter in Pittsburgh.
Oh, bad plan.
Big mistake. So with this though, like I'm walking back into fucking memories. It's not like I haven't been here in years. Like I come back all the time and stuff. I'm overly familiar with the area. But now I get to hang out. Normally I'm here for like, we got 3 days, we're doing an event, and then we're back on the plane, we go home and shit. Now it's extended stay. So I just get to roam around. I get to like walk into stores that I haven't walked into since I was a kid. And I get to walk into stores that I never walked into before. I'm a vegan and shit, but I didn't buy anything. But like, what is Sabato's, the fucking meat store in Belford with the cow on the fucking roof? I've driven past that place my entire fucking life because my parents, like we had a pizza parlor in Highlands called Francesco's and shit. But there was a place called the Touch of Italy in Belford. And they put a coupon in the Asbury Park Press every week for a $3 large pie. And so my father would put all of us in the car and drive us fucking from Highlands to Belford to get a cheaper pie. And I'm like, you just blew that money on gas. You know, what the fuck? So like going back there, I never went into the meat store. And today I was like out and about, and earlier, it was today or yesterday. It was early this morning after I took the walk. I fucking walked in for the first time and shit. And I was like, I'm done. And then I walked out, just sometimes you just like to have those experiences and shit. So it's been wonderful, wonderful being here. And we rehearse this week. We start Monday. We rehearse from like noon till 5 every day. And then we're off to the races on a week from Monday on my birthday, August 2nd. My birthday gift to myself is like, let's start the movie. So it's been great. But did I think I'd be back here? Oh God, yes. And again, I never wanted to leave and shit. But I was married to somebody who was not from New Jersey and who spent 3 years in New Jersey and was like, if you don't take me to Los Angeles, I'm leaving you. And I was like, oh, let's go to LA. And she moved to LA and I wanted to continue having sex with her. So I also moved to LA is what it comes down to. Thank you for that. Give it up for the question, man. All right, Ernie. Hands in the air. Let's see if Ernie finds you. The eye of Sauron falls on you. What's your name?
It's Rory.
Rory? Give it up
Yes.
for Rory, man. You never meet enough Rorys. You know any Rorys?
Never enough. You might be my first Rory.
Yeah, I think you're
Nice
my
to meet
first
you.
Rory.
There's a few of us out there.
Yeah.
Like one or two.
Gilmore.
Calhoun.
No, I wasn't saying I'm saying Rory Gilmore is a Gilmore girl. Nice to meet you, Rory Calhoun.
So one of the questions I had for you was what it kind of feels like to follow characters for so long and get to actually see them grow through the portion of 3 different films. And the other thing is I actually just started a film production company, which was like one of my dreams. Yeah. And I actually got to get like our LLC and got everything moving. So we were really excited. But when I knew you were here today, I was so it was so important for me to meet you because you were so like instrumental in me just like getting to the point where I am right now.
Thank you for that, man.
So I really just, it's just such a stupid dorky thing. I got some cards made up and for the company.
Business cards.
Yes,
That's how I started. That
yeah.
makes you like that is it's throwing your hat over the fence. It's going
Yeah.
like I'm fucking doing a thing, so I better
Yeah.
print up cards. The first step on not everything you do, but in film for me, I was like, we have to get business cards. Then I'll be serious, and we did, and we were.
We actually just shot a film last year,
Oh, congrats!
which was super cool. And I just kind of wanted to give you that as like a thank you for getting me like motivated to want to write when I was like 12, 13 when I started watching your movies.
Oh my God, what the fuck? Who let you watch that shit at that age? What kind of reprehensible
Believe it or
parenting
not,
is that?
I actually just like lost my mother not too long ago. It was like
Oh,
a
I'm
couple
so
months
sorry.
ago. But
Here I just impugned her parenting.
no, but she did see Mallrats and she lost it every time when Jay and Silent Bob beat up the Easter Bunny.
That rocks.
So yeah, that was
Your mom's my kind of people,
yeah,
man.
she was super cool like that. But I just really wanted to get that out to you because it was just like a weird kind of thank you.
I'll carry it in my wallet, man.
It's a raven made out of film. I was kind of
It
proud
is.
of
It's a
yeah.
very cool picture.
Yeah.
I mean, I would hold it up, but nobody can see this far into it. And shit. I'm totally gonna keep this in my wallet and then leave it at the scene of a crime.
Thank you so much, man.
What was the question then?
Oh, the question, and I'd asked you. So you had these characters that you started off with,
Yes.
almost like 30 years ago. At this
Yeah,
point.
yeah, oh yeah.
And not a lot of filmmakers get to follow characters that long.
Mm.
And just getting ready to film. I hope it's not the finale, but if it is the last time that we get to see them, what was it like watching them grow from like, say, just being like early 20s to being where they are now? Like, what does that bring out of you?
Michael Apted, the filmmaker who made Coal Miner's Daughter, amongst many things, one of my favorite films. He was a documentarian as well. He made a series of films called 7 Up, 14 Up, 21 Up, where he interviewed these kids. And 7 years later, he interviewed them again for a whole documentary. And then 7 years later, when they were adults, he did it again. He passed away a few years ago, but he did another iteration of it right before he passed away. And I always thought that was wicked. I was like, oh my God, he gets to check back in and you get to see everybody grow up. Richard Linklater, of course, did the Before Sunrise, Before Sunset, and what was the third one called?
Before Midnight.
Before Midnight series. So, when he did Before Sunrise, like after that, we did Chasing Amy. And then he did Before Sunset, but I didn't do another Chasing Amy. You know what I'm saying? He kept going. He did those 3 movies and they're real fucking beautiful. Cause again, like you said, you get to follow those characters. And generally when movies are, follow characters again and again, they're just sequels. But this is like extending the story. No, it's not a cash grab to make fucking Before Sunset. It's not a cash grab to make fucking Clerks 3. Nobody wants to see this movie except myself, so it's breathing that Michael Apted air, breathing that air where you get to like go back and play with those characters. I just take it for granted because if I had my way, I just would have made 29 Clerks movies. Like I wouldn't have made anything else. I would have been like Dante Randall do this, Dante Randall do this, Dante Randall go to space. But Dr. Josh Rouse, yesterday, where I was talking about all the fucking negative comments and people coming after me and shit like that. And I was not like fucking depressed, but I was definitely like a little quiet because I'm like, oh man, I don't fucking want people to be mad. And Josh, was giving me the old pep talk of like, what the fuck, like you're Kevin fucking Smith, and I was like, I don't want to be that today. Did you see these tweets? They all hate Kevin fucking Smith and stuff. But he pointed out, he's like, you're about to make a fucking trilogy. Like, how many filmmakers dream about fucking being able to do that? Make a trilogy of films that are connected and shit, that is very uniquely theirs, like that spans decades. And when he said that, I was like, yeah, that's kind of fucking neat. Not everyone does that. And I I'm sure a bunch of them don't want to do it. They're like, I just like Chris Nolan is never like, oh, I'll do the fucking, what was the movie? Memento trilogy, he does. Chris Nolan lives in the future. He don't even talk about the past. Go find an interview where he talks about Memento. Not anymore. Like, meanwhile, find an interview where I don't talk about Clerks. But even though there are people like Chris Nolan who are like, hey man, moving forward, bigger, better. I think there are a bunch of storytellers who would love that. love the opportunity to be like, I'm gonna go back. I'm gonna check in with my characters and stuff. And it's not financially viable, or fucking, maybe the movie doesn't warrant fucking taking another financial risk or something on. Just like fucking thank God Lionsgate went for it and shit. I was like, holy shit, what a lucky day. We did business with them on Jay and Silent Bob Reboot. They had the home video, and they had DVD, and we sold like a fuck ton of DVDs. And I was like, DVD still exists? But we sold so many DVDs and Blu-rays that they were like, look, you got anything else like this shit and it's under 10 million bucks, you fucking come here. And I was like, all I got is shit under 10 million bucks. Here's Clerks 3. And they're like, done. So luckily we got them to come aboard and stuff, and I get to do it. But it's, for me, I was always going to follow Dante and Randall throughout their lives, because they're my parallel, right? That's why in Clerks 3, they're making a movie. Like, Dante and Randall made my life so much better. Dante and Randall were the doorway to all my dreams coming true. Dante and Randall literally gave me this life that I've been enjoying professionally for 27 fucking years. The least I can do is return the favor to Dante and Randall and be like, here, you make a movie. Let's see what happens. Gave them their lives, in Clerks 2, where they figured out, we'll buy the fucking store and be our own bosses. And this is where they get to evolve like one more time and stuff. And Clerks was about life in my 20s. Clerks 2 is about life in my 30s. This one is about life in 40s and 50s, so-called end of life and stuff like that. So there's poignancy, but it's funny as fuck. Jay Muse has some of my favorite lines he's ever had in a movie in Clerks 3. And we just spent like a whole movie with him as the lead in Jay and Silent Bob Reboot, and he was wonderful, absolutely wonderful. But let's be honest, Jay and Silent Bob are meant to be used as like Rosencrantz and Guildenstern. Like, it's a shocking that they've carried 2 fucking movies by themselves. Never should have fucking happened. But like in the Clerks 3, they literally play the similar role that they played in Clerks. So there's like dollops of them, and it's really good. And they're there throughout the entire story and stuff, but it's not like every fucking scene. So I love it. I love going back and checking in with my kids and stuff. And I can't wait to share this story. Again, Clerks 2 was one of my favorite things I've ever done in my life. Like, definitely top 2. So I can't wait to do this, because as much as I like Clerks 2, I love what we got going on in Clerks 3. So I can't wait to fucking share it.
I mean, you talked about, how few filmmakers are lucky enough to get to complete their trilogies, and I just can't help but think about George Lucas. Last I checked, only got to make 2 Phantom Menace movies, and then they just never got to see the rest of the story.
Somewhere George Lucas is watching the show going, why is Orko Griffin such a bitch? What'd I ever do to him? You do better, George. Do you, George?
I don't know why does Orko not like my movies?
Now do Orko telling George that you do like his movies.
I like your movies, George.
Yeah, do you like the one with Watto in it?
No, I feel competitive with other flying blue guys.
Magic. All right, Castle Keeper Ernie O'Donnell. Let's pick our third and final question asker of the evening, so we can let these people go into that good night. Look at you sitting down for doing it.
It's only because me and him are really good friends.
Nice.
Yeah.
What's your name?
Ryan McGinley.
Ron?
Ryan McGinley.
Ryan. Everyone give it up for Ryan.
All right, thanks.
All right, Ryan, pull that mask up.
Oh, sorry.
No worries. If you shut down Clerks 3, a lot of people will be fucking mad, Ryan.
I'll be mad at me.
Over your nose.
Oh, sorry.
There you go.
All right. So I have 2 quick questions, but before that, I just want to tell you, Clerks, in my opinion, is the holy grail. I think it was great. And a couple of us were talking outside, and I said how Clerks 2, it was awesome in its own way, where you don't need to see 1 to see 2. It kind of, it's like a self-sustaining
It does kind of
movie.
work self.
Because if you never saw 1, even though you should, you don't need to.
No.
The movie stands all on itself without having to piggyback. So
Very
that was
true.
cool.
Thank you.
The 2 questions I had. One, is it going to be in black and white, or is it going to be in color?
It's both. So
I
the
figured.
premise of the movie.
The happy and the.
No, not even. The premise of the movie, of course, is that they make a movie. So the movie they make is in black and white. So the movie's in color, and when they shoot their version of Clerks, which is called Inconvenience, It's in.
Nice.
That
Well
was the
played.
original title for Clerks. That was the first title of it. And Vinny Pereira, will be coming back to join us. He'll be in Clerks 3 as well. He was the guy he was our cat wrangler in the movie. But also he's the guy that comes up to the counter. He's like, congratulations, that she's marrying an Asian design major. And Dante's like, so I've heard. That's Vinny. Vinny used to live here in Leonardo, lives in Detroit now. Or in Michigan, rather. I think very near Detroit. But he was the one that wanted to be in film before me. He knew like he wanted to be a director. And I remember being like, you can't be a director. You have to be born in Hollywood. And he's like, no, anybody could be a fucking director. I was like, really? Are you sure? He's the first guy that made it clear that like I could be a director. He never said you should be a director. In fact, Vinny still says you probably shouldn't direct. But he was like the guy that made it seem possible for me. So why was I telling this fucking story?
Because you're interesting.
No, not right now. What was your question? Oh, hold on, it'll take me back to it.
I don't remember either.
Black and white.
Oh, the black and white.
Black and
That's
white.
right. Yeah.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you,
Oh,
sir.
Inconvenience. That was more it. So when I presented Vinny with Inconvenience, the script, which essentially is Clerks, Vinny goes, ugh, that title, so fucking precious. And I was like, really? Like, I thought it was clever. He's like, yeah, it's fucking obviously clever. He's like, we got to come up with a different title for that. So Vinny like worked in the video store and I worked in the convenience store. He had been the mop boy at the convenience store at Quick Stop. And he only took that job because he aspired to work in the video store. And finally, the toppers one day fucking gave him the job and he thought his life was complete and shit. So he was working at the video store. I was working at Quick Stop. And he came in just like Dante and Randall. Somebody always locks the video store door and just goes and hangs out at Quick Stop. He came over. He's like, I wrote a list of titles for the movie. And it was a joke list of titles with like very ridiculous fucking names like fucking Twister 2 and shit like that. Like, but one of the titles was Rude Clerks. And we laughed so hard because it's like so on the nose and so obvious and shit like that. Like, could you imagine if it was called Rude Clerks? And then like 20 minutes later, like I went next door to the RST and I was like, but like just calling it Clerks is kind of cool because that's what they are. And Vinny's like, that's why I wrote the obvious title. And I was like, yeah, but I think it kind of works. Like, I think we should go with Clerks. And it was Clerks because of Vinny. So why did I tell that fucking story in the first place? It goes back to the thing you said that triggered all this. Black and white. Yes. So thank you.
Yeah,
so
we're saying about
Inconvenience.
Yeah.
Yeah, I stopped. So the black and white movie they're making is called Inconvenience. That's their version of Clerks. And it's, it won't be around for a year. So even if I spoil some shit, people will probably forget. But like, there are a lot of us replicating the scenes that insanely well, like from Clerks. And the beautiful thing is they're replicated with all the same people, and we're all so fucking old. With the exception of Castle Keeper Ernie O'Donnell. Allie, who's our wardrobe person, the costume designer, did a fitting with Ernie and sent me the pictures. And, Ernie, if you don't know, played Rick Darris in Clerks. I'm a trainer, that guy. So he's back in Clerks 3. And he's wearing the exact same fucking outfit that he wore in Clerks. And, Ernie kept all the pieces, so it's all there.
Nice.
The sweatbox, like sweatshirt hangs in the secret stash, but he's got one of his own. He's got the weight belt. He's got everything. So she sent me pictures of Ernie. And I'm like, this Dorian Gray motherfucker looks younger than he did in the black and white movie we shot fucking over 20 years ago. Ernie's got like fucking these amazing genes. Also, he doesn't drink and fucking smoke, which he's such a commercial for fucking not drinking and smoking because he looks so young. So everyone in Clerks 3 is going to look older except for Ernie, who ruins the fucking curve. And like when he shows up, people in the audience are going to assume like, oh, that must be the son of the old man who played that part and he's dead or something like that. No, it's just fucking Ernie.
He did a great job on that. He was like the perfect cocky jock that I remember from like high school. He was just boisterous and kind of a bully.
One of my favorite deliveries in any movie I've ever made in my entire life comes from my first movie, and it's from Ernie, where he goes, don't take this the wrong way, but I used to fuck her. Like, It is mind-bendingly fucking perfect fucking delivery. Nice to fucker. Anyway, did you even ask a question, or I just start talking?
Black and white or color?
Black and white or color. That
Yeah.
was the question.
Are you guys gonna film at night? Because the store has to be open during the day. Same
Well,
thing.
Normally, what a fucking great question. Normally, when we made Clerks, we all shot at night because, like the store, we couldn't disrupt business. When we have come back to shoot Clerks 2, the few scenes we shot here in Jersey for Clerks 2, because that was shot mostly in Buena Park, or the few scenes we shot here for Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back, the Toppers have always been gracious about letting us shoot in the store with one condition: we cannot close the store. So we'll be like, action, and we'll do a take and go cut, and then Mrs. Topper's like, open the door, and people come in to shop, like walking past the cameras and the actors and shit like that. And then they'd buy their shit, and as soon as they were gone, we'd be like, all right, lock the door and action. This time around, the Toppers are being really sweet about like closing the place for 2 weeks. So we're setting up a satellite version of Quick Stop called, of course, Quicker Stop, in honor of the cartoon at the end of the building. So, there are some things that the town can't do without: lottery, cigarettes, apparently candy. I was like, we're going to have to bring milk. And Rajiv, who runs the store, who owns the store, was just like, you don't need milk. I was like, what, are you fucking kidding me? Like, milk is a staple. Everyone buys milk here. And I was remembering when I used to work there. He's going, nobody buys milk anymore. He's like, I basically, he's like, I make about $250 a week on milk. I was like, are you fucking shit? Yeah, it's like 10 gallons of milk. He's like, well done. And then he goes, well done, if we were still in the 90s. So that was the last time I rang shit up. So we'll be doing our satellite version of Quicker Stop so the locals can still get stuff. But we get to close the store down. So there's been this interesting discussion about, since we're in utter control of the environment, like, when do we shoot things? And oddly enough, even though now we have control and can shoot all day long, we're going to be mostly shooting nights. Just because, like, it's the summertime, it's very hot, it's very humid, of course, and August is going to get worse. So rather than shooting in the blazing heat of the day, it's just like, let's kind of do it at night. Like, so, we have the benefit in the script of the steel shutters being closed. So as long as you stay away from the open door, it looks like daytime in that store.
That was brilliant at the end of Reboot. I laughed so hard I got a cramp.
With the gum
When
in
Jay
lock?
goes, he's like, I've been putting gum in locks for 30 fucking years.
Yeah. We tag up on that again in
That was
fucking
great.
Clerks 3. Trust me, there's no joke we don't tag up on in Clerks 3. Like, if you thought Reboot was like, oh my God, this is like him trying to do a best of album. This is me trying to do a double best of album. A lot of reference, very meta. Is that good?
Yeah, just the last thing, I want to
Yeah.
give you props. It's great that you're actually doing it at the store. Obviously, being in LA, you probably could have built a set for probably less and just
Not in
done it there.
LA, it would have been expensive, but Louisiana for sure.
Anywhere really, but you didn't do that, and I think everybody else will appreciate. It's just it's what it is. Very hitting back to home.
I agree with you. The beautiful thing is, like, this was never intended, obviously. I just wanted to make a movie, but like, after a quarter of a century, the place is iconic. Like, it's on websites. People come visit every damn day from all around the world, buy Gatorade, take pictures in front of the register, in front of the sign. Yeah, you did buy Gatorade?
Yeah.
Right the fuck on, man. I was talking about you. So it's the place is iconic. Like, it's lived fine without me ever since the last movie we made here and stuff. But now we get to kind of put a fresh coat of paint on the place, which we literally did a few months ago, and head back in. So it's going to be fun because there will be people who don't follow my shit all that closely, but do like, oh, I want to take a road trip to that like Quick Stop and shit. They're going to show up and we're going to be sitting there making a fucking movie. They're going to be like, did they ever go home? Like, but thank you. Yeah, it's so good to be doing it here, man. This is where it all began. So it's like, it feels right coming home, so to speak. That was the Q&A portion of the evening, ladies and gentlemen. Give it up for the Q&A'ers. Give it up for Ernie.
May I?
I
If
want
can
you
be
to.
so bold.
Yes.
When Rory, not Gilmore, asked this question, it reminded me of an anecdote. He was talking about seeing your movies too young, and it feels it would be stupid not to share it here in the castle in front of these people. But I went to sleepaway camp for the first time. I was 12 years old, where you're supervised, but you're not super supervised. And
This
the
is
people in
not
charge of
the
you.
camp you talked about earlier, where you sat on
Second
the
camp,
beach.
second camp, and people hate it when I fucking talk about summer camp on mic. But
It
I
just seems that you've went to a lot of fucking
it
summer
was
camps.
too much of my life. But I go sleepaway camp for the first time. The people in charge of you are like 17, 18.
Yeah.
So suddenly rules are off, right? And there's a guy who I've talked about to you who was named Grunge, who was sort of like my older like mentor, older brother, kind of counselor and training dude. And his two favorite things in the world were Kevin Smith and Masters of the Universe. There was two favorite things. He dressed like you, backwards cap, fucking trench coats in the middle of the woods in the summer. And people said, take the jacket off. And he went, no, it's a Silent Bob thing. It's a Silent Bob thing. And I thought up until that moment, when are He-Man and Kevin Smith ever going to collide other than in this guy's brain? But he gets me both into Motu and into your work. He was the guy that kind of exposed me to both, like the older sister and Almost Famous playing the record, right?
Right.
And
Excellent pull.
thank you. So I go back home and I'm like, hey, I want to buy all these toys. And they're like, those toys have been out of production for 20 fucking, where are you going to buy these? Like, I want to see Kevin Smith movies. Like, oh, you're 12, sit down, shut up, right? And then 9/11 happens, right? And Strike Back had just come out, like
Yeah.
right before the end of August,
Month
I think.
before, yeah.
So begging, please let me go. Please, absolutely not. Non-starter. I think it might have literally been September 12th. If it was not, it was September 13th. It was that soon after. And I lived in downtown Manhattan. And when the
Were you
towers
there
fell,
when they
oh
went
yeah,
down?
not in the towers, but yes,
you
I
were
was.
there in
I was
town.
yes, yeah, I was in town. I born and raised, grew up there my whole life. And when the towers went down, they blocked off like 14th Street. You couldn't go above or below, right? I went to school on the Upper West Side. My parents couldn't get up to pick me up from school. Another parent had hung around because she was kind of a helicopter mom who lived downtown. And she was like, I got the kids. And she's arguing with the firemen, you know, because you're going to have to stay in a hotel. You can't go below 14th Street. She goes, these aren't my kids. They need to go home to their parents. I go, okay, we get home. And, you know, I'm the oldest. I'm 12. My brother's 9. My sister was 3. Big gap there. But weird fucking time, right?
Big gap. They figured out, like, if we send this kid to camp, we could fuck again.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, right. They were like 12, old enough for Griffin to go to camp. Maybe also the younger one as well. Let's get them both out of the house.
Take the 3-year-old with you.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember I get home and my parents, there was a video store directly across the street, Couch Potato, and they had rented every fucking movie that we loved that they used to hate. All the shit they said we couldn't watch. It's like, here's every Adam Sandler movie, because they just didn't want the news on. They wanted to distract us. They're trying
Good
to
plan.
good plan, right? So the next day, 2 days later, whatever is the 12th or 13th, I'm at home. I think I'm watching my brother and my sister. My parents are out, probably stocking up on supplies, or whatever, because we're like, is the world gonna end? The store's gonna close? What's gonna happen here, right? And we can't go to school, shut down. We're stuck below 14th Street. What are we gonna do? And my dad calls me and he goes, tell James to get dressed. I'm going to take both of you to see Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back. And I said, I've been trying to convince you to take me to see Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back because I'm a very mature 12-year-old. He is 9. And despite the fact that I've spent the last 3 weeks downplaying how inappropriate this movie is, I'm now going to flip over some cards and say, you should maybe not take him to see it. And my father, with a graveness I have not heard since, said, Griffin, I need you to understand that these are extraordinary times and extraordinary circumstances, and I do not want you to question my parenting here. And he takes
now go to camp.
He takes my brother and I to, I believe it was the then Lowe's Theater on Broadway and 19th Street. And the movie starts, and 2 minutes in, fuck, mother, fuck. And he, without missing a beat, turns to my brother and goes, you know, we can leave, James. You don't like this, right? We don't want to see this. And for the last 20 fucking years, whenever my parents fight, my mom's always got that in her back pocket. You took a 9-year-old to see Jay and Silent Bob. It was 9/11. They were extraordinary times. And I go, look, I told you not to do it.
Fucking beautiful. Give it up for Griffin Newman, ladies and gentlemen. This week I think we'll be releasing on the YouTube channel as well. We did Masters of the Universe Revelation Celebration commentary tracks. So for every episode, there's a commentary track. So the first one I do by myself, second one I do with Dia, who wrote episode 2, third one I do with Mark, who wrote episode 3, fourth one I do with Tim Sheridan, he did 4, and the fifth one, of course, with Eric Carrasco. So hopefully you watch the show first because there'll be lots of spoilers and whatnot. But it's deep dives into the episode with the writers who wrote, those words, those scenarios, and giving you background on where that stuff came from and stuff. Hopefully it doesn't piss more people off online. I wish people didn't get upset, but I'm sure those people are like, well, I wish you made a better fucking He-Man. So, fair enough. To those people who didn't like the show, I'm sorry, but again, just wait. There'll be another fucking He-Man coming down the road if you don't like this one and stuff. However, this He-Man will be around for a minute.
He-Man's like the MTA. If you miss one, there'll be one in 15 minutes.
Exactly. You'll get another one.
Yeah.
This is reboot time, kids. Like they're going to reboot it sooner or later, very fast on the heels of our version and stuff. But our version still has more to go. 5 more episodes. I don't know when they get dropped. They haven't told me exact dates. I'm not sure if it's the end of this year or the beginning of next year and stuff, because they want to spread it out. In the event there's a season 2, they want the season 2 to happen in 2023. So, they want to kind of space it so that there's not missing Motu for too long or anything like that. I'm sure I'm gonna get fucking fired, and not for ruining He-Man as I've been accused of doing, but like for giving out far too much fucking information. But I have been wanting to talk about this show for so fucking long, like for the whole time we were working on it and stuff. So now I'm just like blah 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 blah. So look for those commentary tracks. They'll go up on Monday or Tuesday or something like that. They're really fun and very, very informative if you like the show at all. Don't forget, kids, the Jeff's Kiss shirt available at jayandsilentbob.com. Do you have anything to sell?
Do I have anything to sell? Blank Check with Griffin and David, wherever podcasts are found. This week we're talking old, so if you liked me talk about that for 3 minutes, you can listen to me repeat myself for 2.5 hours, and then getting ready to do the whole John Carpenter filmography after that. And I can't say what because it's a spoiler, but we got you on the books for an episode early next year. We booked way too far in advance. So anyone else would go, oh, we should get Kevin on when the show's premiering. We were like, can we get you on 9 months from now because we're unorganized? But yeah, listen to that and watch. I'm on a show called Masters of the Universe Revelation. We worked really hard on that. I'm very proud of it.
It's been a wonderful weekend, no lie. But there have been moments of like, oh man, based on like the some of the stuff that's gone on online. But this was the bomb. And I don't mean this is the bomb. This is the BALM, the salve, if you will, the balm for the heart, man. Sitting here talking to you. For a person I did not even know 1 year ago, you've become incredibly important to me and my work. So I thank you for putting all your heart into that performance. It makes the difference. Look, a lot of people are saying horrible shit about me. Nobody's saying anything bad about Orko. And that's because of you. Give it up for Griffin Newman. You're Orko.
Yeah. I do. I mean, I hate to nitpick, but my first recording session was February 2020. That was over a year ago. So your compliment is invalidated, but whatever.
Fair enough. I've known him over a year. Fuck. I didn't know there'd be notes.
No, but it's truly, people go, like, Kevin Smith's doing the He-Man show. How does that line up and this and that? And are they smoking Moss Man and whatever? I stole the joke from someone else, I'm sure. But I truly, especially because even pre-COVID, I was the only cast member in New York City. Came in handy for this today when I was local. But because I know this because
Tony Todd wasn't in LA.
Really?
Yeah, and somebody else was in New York as well.
Okay.
Method Man recorded in New York.
That might be a big spoiler.
I mean, some guy recorded in Oh my God. Fuck.
Then maybe I wasn't the only one, but when we started recording, it was right before. You don't know who he plays. Someone
Hold
cool.
on. Clownfish, please don't tell anybody.
Please.
Please don't. I'm gonna get in trouble if that gets out. Please don't tell me.
But we started recording. It was right before the pandemic, and I was sort of bummed. Where I'm like, oh, everyone else gets to be in studio working with Kevin, and oh my God, Mark Hamill in the waiting room. Oh, what a weird coincidence, whatever. And I'm like here in my own little corner. And then very quickly the world changes and we're all doing it over the screens, you know? But we have had this weird relationship over screens, and that can feel very impersonal, as I think all of us know, because we were forced to live that way for far too long.
Very true.
But you always...
And we're heading back to it.
I know, yeah, apparently. Right. I thought this was an epilogue and it's an intermission. But I'm sorry, too dark. Fingers crossed. Everything's good. It's gonna get better. Yes, you always made me feel like I was in the room, like the thing was hands-on, like everything was normal and very supportive. And it's such a pleasure to work on the show.
We liked it.
Yeah, we had a great time.
We did.
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen of the residents temporarily of SModcastle for this episode of Fat Man Beyond. Did you have a good time this evening? I cannot thank you enough for coming out and whatnot. Please, a big round of applause for Ernie O'Donnell, our castle keeper. He built this place for you. We got Christian in there on the soundboard. Give it up for Christian. Wayne on the door, made sure you got in safely and whatnot. Give it up for Wayne. But especially give it up for a stellar fucking guest, man. Like, I love content generators, and god damn it, fucking he generated a lot of content. Not only did he give us great performance with words that were written for him, this is probably the longest I've heard you extemporize. And I'm like, he needs no writer whatsoever.
This was like half a blank check episode. I regret to inform you. Yeah, I can go all night. And then people go like, you could have ended a couple hours ago. Quit while you're ahead.
We'll be probably doing the show, still me and Mark, you know, the kind of streaming version, but we won't do it in person for the rest of the month, for all the month of August, because we'll be shooting the movie. But there will be a Fat Man Beyond, just not the in-person live shows. That being said, we only opened up SModcastle like 3 weeks ago, and we got to do the show 3 times so far, Fat Man Beyond, and it's been absolutely lovely. I can't thank you enough for all coming out and supporting the place, man. It's a little dream come true and shit, and everybody coming through makes it thrive, keeps it alive. It's so nice pulling up and seeing people in front of the block of stores. You know, when I used to work here as a kid, if I would have seen 50 people outside the store, I would have been like, I'm dead. But it's so nice seeing people, like, you know, in the fucking setting sun, just hanging out in front of the Quick Stop building, waiting to come in here and do a show. So thank you for letting me make my dreams come true right here in this corner of the world. And as soon as we're done making the movie, we're going to reopen SModcastle and have lots and lots of shows. So until then, ladies and gentlemen, you know who I forgot to fucking thank is Dr. Josh Roush back there. Give it up for Josh Roush as well. And now that is Fat Man Beyond for this week, man. I'm Kevin. Oh, wait. Holy fuck. Bamf Man jumped in.
You're in New Jersey for 3 weeks and you forget about me already. Next thing you know, Mark's going to be out there and you're never coming home. And I'm left here by myself on Saturday afternoons.
Give it up for JC. Gentlemen, without JC, we got no show. Bamf Man himself.
And for what it's worth, Masters of the Universe, which I saw at your house, I rewatched all of last night, and it's a time machine for me. Brings me back to like 1984.
Right?
What's that?
You one of the toy kids? Did you have the toys?
I love the toys. I have pictures of my brother and I, because we were too poor to have real power swords. We had like the cheap knockoff ones, playing He-Man in my backyard. It's one of my favorite photos when I'm 4 and he's 2. So it's a time machine for me. I love it. So thank you.
Thank you, my friend. That last piece made it okay that you fucking interrupted the end of the fucking show. There it is, kids. That is Fat Man Beyond for this week. I'm Kevin Smith.
I'm Mark Bernardin. Griffin Newman.
Tune in next week. Same fat time, same fat channel, SModcast.com or YouTube.com/Kevin Smith. Jeff's Kiss, everybody. Have a great night. Good night.